and sometimes you seem not to have control. And so let's get started. Again, we will start with education. And so let's start. Mr. Wleh, what educational system did the Unity Party leave for the CDC and Liberia? 2 minutes.
Yes, okay. Like I was saying initially before we had this technical issue, if you are getting me.
Yes, go ahead. We can get you,
okay.
Getting you loud and clear.
So in Liberia, in 2018, when CDC took over in Liberia, we had we inherited a complete mess, which the guys from the Unity Party, if they want to argue that, they shouldn't argue with me, but they should go and argue with their standard bearer or former standard bearer. So Mr. Boaka and President Salif acknowledged that they left a mess back in terms of our educational sector. And I agree with them for a lot of reasons. One of my reasons could be, look at our performances over the years in the WIAC exam. It would tell you exactly how we were doing in 2018, or before 2018 rather. We inherited our education system that was a mess because we had teachers across the country that were going through a lot of strenuous circumstances in terms of, we had over 3,000 teachers that they refer to as supplementary teachers. Those people were teaching and they were not on the payroll, the official payroll of the government. And you know what that means? You send a man to work and you are not kind of paying him. It means that he will not be able to perform. And more besides, in terms of the commitment of the teachers, we were spending huge sum of money in that sector, but we're not getting the right output. That is to say, we have school teachers. For example, you go to a public school, the principal at that school will in fact not just be teaching somewhere, but at times teaching 2 other schools. Can you imagine that? When we were paying these instructors to be full-time teachers, but because of the lack of supervision, incompetence from the Ministry of Education at the time, you will have a principal of a public school teaching 2 other schools, or you have a teacher of a public school teaching 2, sometimes even 3 other schools. Ask people back home. And you should be aware, rather, these are realities. So everything was messy. So all of those things were contributing to our students poorly performing. You and I know very well how embarrassing I've interacted. You know, the English language is now our official language. I understand we falter, we struggle at times, but at least the minimum requirement of educated person, most Liberian students that were graduating during that period, a bulk of them, according to the World Bank, could not read properly. High school graduates could not even read up to a 3rd grade standard. Can you imagine that? That's the kind of education system we inherited. We inherited our education system at the University of Liberia. All of our neighboring countries, you go Ghana, you go other countries in the region there, students could go online and register and book their classes and pay without even going on the campus to do any of those things. But every time we had a new academic year starting, it had to be walled. It had to be walled. That's the kind of messy educational system to borrow from the Unity Party former standard bearer that we inherited.
Thank you. Mr. Lobbo, MacCullay is saying you guys left a mess. What did you leave for the people of Liberia? I'm talking about our educational system.
To be quite frank, I find it to be laughable to hear that coming from a government of change, the government that came to be able to correct the wrongs. But let me say to my dear friend and brother, you see, like he said, that the English word, we do not have control over them. So sometimes when people speak in Liberia, what is more important is context. What context was the former standard bearer speaking in? But I will help my brother here today with some things here. When we took over Liberia as a government in 2006, I hope the brother would take his time to acknowledge to the Liberian people today how many counties since independence have community colleges. How many public schools were constructed under their government? That is something. The Unity Party government built 200 plus public schools, renovated all old public schools. It was the Unity Party government that invested and increased teachers' salary. You see, when it comes to administration and management, people don't understand that reform takes a lot. Reform entails a lot of different components because the Liberian man mentality is that the Liberian men always want to see the finished goods. What goes into making the goods a finished goods, Liberians don't care about that. What the Unity Party government did, we took over a country first and foremost, was a failed state, no institution function. But we knew that there was importance in education. We decentralized education, something which had never happened. We built community colleges in Lofa, in Grenjide, in Nimba, in Grand Bassa. We invested in that nothing was done. I have relatives who graduated from the MVTC, which is a vocational institution. We had a youth program at the Ministry of Youth and Sport called TZ. I hope my brother knows about it. In Bond County, we left for you a Bond Technical College under construction. I can go on and on. But let me tell you one thing he struck that I like. We took teachers from making $800, $15 to $250, $300. If your understanding of progress and that is nothing, then I will say to you today, I will leave it with the Liberian people. But the Liberian people know what happened. Teachers, we did not see teachers protesting to get paid. Let's look at the University of Liberia, which happens to be the nation's highest institution of learning. What did we do? When we came to power, University of Liberia were operating, they will graduate 1 year, it will take another year before they pull out graduates. How many master program schools were in Liberia? Now, what did we do with the university to make it better? We took them from the squeeze up little place up on Capital Bypass, moved them to Fender, renovated the entire Fender. What did we do? We increased the University of Liberia budget to $16 million. You know, when an intellectual is saying these things, that is what I want to hear. Tell us what you did, how you're making better. We gave you a University of Liberia with a budget of $16 million. You have had 2 fiscal budgets. Have you been able to even provide $8 million for the UL? We have seen teachers refusing to go to class since we left it with you people. We've seen students have to get in the street for teachers to get paid.
Thank you, Josh. All right, gentlemen, let's look at this. So is the CDC now, Mr. Wleh, cleaning this mess that you talk about, that the Unity Party left with the CDC? Is the CDC cleaning that mess in terms of education?
Oh, yes. The CDC is cleaning the mess, my dear brother. Let me quote, not myself. Everybody listening to this show, let me appeal to you. Don't take my word. I am not here to make any excuse for the CDC-led government. The CDC-led government right now, we have been in power for 2 years, and Liberian people can no longer take excuses. We should now own up and say, yes, this is what we have inherited, and this is how we're going to move forward. That is my point. I am just here to tell you, our listeners, that when you hear people from the Unity Party speaking, tell them to shut up, because they don't deserve to be talking. We will focus on this issue. Let me quote the UNICEF 2018 report on Liberia. I am reading directly from this report. It says a number of steps were taken in 2018 to increase access to quality education. The promotion of early childhood education was one of the key strategies to address these issues. Other strategies to improve access included expanding the Liberian female teacher training program, enforcing the teachers' code of conduct, piloting direct school grants to reduce the financial burden on parents. And the same report said with the Ministry of Education and UNICEF, They train what? 3,000 basic educational teachers from grade 1 to 9 in the year 2018 alone, which is exceeded the target, which was 500. But beyond that, the Ministry of Education went and said no. They went right away to institute a policy to change the curriculum of Liberia, to make the Liberian curriculum, to take it from instead of it being content-based to be more substance-based, to teach people life skills. Beyond that, the Ministry of Education went ahead and added 3,000 teachers that were working for the government of Liberia for many years when the Unity Party-led government were not being paid, and added them to the payroll. Beyond that, the Ministry of Education right now, as we speak, along with the World Food Program, they launched a $47 million feeding program, $47 million feeding program to ensure that children now that will not go to school hungry. Are you getting me?
Yeah, Mr. Wleh,
Okay.
are you saying that there's a feeding program going on now at our schools or some of our schools in Liberia?
Yes, I want you right now to go to the World Bank in Liberia, launch 2019 to 2023. I don't want you to quote me. Go to the World Bank, World Food Program, rather, Ministry of Education. They gave grants. It was a grant of $50 million for school feeding.
Thank you.
I'm not saying you should quote me. Okay. But there are a lot of things. I'm sorry that we are pressed to time, but there are so much additional great things that are happening right now in the educational sector that I'm not going to quote myself. I'm going to quote our international partners on this.
Thank you. Mr. Lobbo, you're just listening to Mr. Wleh, your rebuttal on that issue.
What I will do here today, Anthony, is to allow the Liberian people to listen to the facts and hear us. When an intellectual states, if I'm quoting a school that is benefiting from feeding programs, which some of us benefited, I think what I expected my brother to do to tell us some of the names of the schools that have benefited from these programs. But let me also help my brother. We hire teachers. We hire teachers based on performance. What we did was we offer teachers salary that government could meet. We did not institute harmonization. To be honest, I don't understand where in management, where you hire people and then you reduce their income. That itself don't make no sense because there was no need to hire them in the first place. The reason why you had to undertake harmonization, it was austerity measure. That means you don't have the income, so why hire people? That in itself speaks to the level of irresponsibility of the government. Why do you want to brag that you hire people just to say you hire people? You hire them to give them minimum wage. Is that the way you make education better? What I expected to hear this brother to tell me is that our government of the CDC, you know, I'm sad to know that the brother cannot even mention their free public or public university policy. I'm surprised. Because according to the president of the University of Liberia, from the day President Wleh made that pronouncement, all public universities in the Republic of Liberia have been running at a deficit. That was a statement she made before the Liberian Senate. The University of Liberia, since George Wleh came to power, have not been able to receive 50% of our total budget. So for you to tell us today what you've done and read, let me say this to you, fellow Liberians, I've been very critical. I have said, if governments in Liberia listen to me, I want to get rid of NGOs. The reason is very simple. Our international partners will always write these beautiful programs because they know Liberians like workshops. The reality on the ground does not seem to exist. What I expected to hear from a government today is to hear my brother propounding government educational reform policy. But the fact that you'll be reading from UN proposals, it tells me the CDC as the government do not have its own educational policy. But what I will teach us life better, what you've done to the amount of investment you've made in education. You were asked to spend 16% of your national budget on education, something you failed to do. And to be sitting here today to tell us, we've seen MCC teachers or students in the street protesting for the teachers to get paid. That did not happen on our government because we were responsible. We didn't hire people because we wanted to brag about hiring people. We hire people that we could pay. When you hire people and teachers were making $250, you do a harmonization and get them $150, you can't brag about it. You've hurt them.
All right.
You have killed them softly. So it is a shame to know that you're bragging about hiring people that you can't take care of. That's all I would say to that.
All right, George, thank you right there. And to you, MacCullay, your final rebuttal on there, then we'll go to our analyst. George is saying you have teachers that you couldn't pay, and so the student had to join in the street. You have a tuition-free program at the University of Liberia and other places. The teachers are complaining. Many times they try to lay down chalk. What's going on there?
So you see, that's a disservice that our people bring to the table here. You know, the facts are there, and the brother is sitting there. I want anybody watching us right now, go to the Liberia national budget. Just Google search it. You can get it on Google. And this brother is saying that in Liberia, the CDC-led government is spending more on education as compared to the Unity Party-led government. And the facts are right in the budget. So I want our people, like I said, I'm not going to give my own opinions yet. I want you to go. The educational sector, right? In 2017-2018, the budget was 71 million plus. As we speak, this current budget, 2020-2021 fiscal year, is 82 million, over 11 million increase in budgetary allotment. Then the brother is sitting there, he said, as if to say they are spending more money than us in education. It's not my opinion. Like I told our listeners, I will not give my opinion yet. I will quote the documents so we can use it as a yardstick. You talk about me referencing our partners report. Yes, I don't want to say, if I come right now and tell you things, you will go back like you were crying just now, complaining about things that I'm saying. I want to quote experts, people who are not you or who are not me, who don't have party line. So that's why I quote the UNICEF. So if you would tell me that the UNICEF is not credible or so, then it's up to you. But I want our people to get the facts, not my opinion. More beyond that, you talked about teachers, you hire teachers and you pay them low. I don't know, you see, these are the deception I talk about. If Georgia are just there to make criticism and they're not following the realities of what happened in Liberia, then it's unfortunate. When the harmonization policy was very clear that teachers and medical practitioners will not be affected. Are you not aware of that? I want you to call where teachers' pay were reduced and reduced to what? So your information is untrue. It's untrue. You gotta be true for the Liberian people that are listening.
All right.
Like
Thank you.
We have to own up. We got to do better. We
Thank
got to
you.
do better than we are doing, but we are not here to make the Unity Party sound as if to say they did anything in 12 years.
Thank you. And let's come to our analyst here, Mr. Elizana Yala, who is here to provide analysis on this debate. Mr. Yala, you just listening to our honorable debaters. What's your analysis?
Thank you, Mr. CA. Let me first of all register that it is a good thing to reference international organizations when you're having this kind of debate. To use their records or some of their reports as your standing points. That's a good thing. And I saw both of you guys are trying to do that. But let me first of all touch on the last thing that Mr. Wleh mentioned. Mr. Wleh mentioned that the feeding program started in Liberia in 2018. And I stand to be, and he meant to say that that program started on the current government. So Unity Party government was not doing anything about school feeding. Fact check here is that the first fact I want to establish, as current as we speak, and based on my own first-hand information, there's no school feeding program going on in Liberia right now as we speak. But to backtrack, the school feeding program actually started by the World Food Program. It was initiated by the World Food Program in collaboration with the Liberian government. It did not start in 2018. It started in 2016, in April of 2016. It was roughly about 300,000 elementary school students that the program was targeting. So I just want to make that correction. So the feeding program is not going on now, but it was not initiated by the CDC government. It was not initiated in 2018. It started in 2016. In April, and the last time we checked, 2016 was under the Unity Party-led government. Now, another point Mr. Wleh raised about the school system being pronounced messy by Ellen Saliv. I think he's right. She did say that. whether she was speaking from whatsoever perspective, for me, that doesn't really matter. What matters here is that you, the president of the country, and you say one of your sectors, is not functional. So people take it, people take that as face value. So she did say that. But Josh came back by saying she was speaking in context, especially when I think she made that announcement when she went to serve as keynote speaker at one of the graduation programs at the University of Liberia. That's when she made that program, and she actually challenged the students to go out there to serve their country, to provide to use what they learn to provide a service to their country. So if she was speaking in context, it was up to her to basically explain that to her audience, because she don't expect people to decipher exactly what she meant. But again, the CDC government will come in to claim that the CDC government have fixed the system. That will also be far-fetched, because CDC government has been in power 2017, 2018, 2019. Technically, by January of this year, the CDC government has already completed her third year. Yeah. So and there's no change. There's no change in the system. Now, let me just be
Mr. Yara, to a point. The CDC started 2018, not 2017.
Oh, sorry, 2018 January. So 2020 January, 2 years. Man. Yeah, strictly 2 years. So, but there has not been any significant change as Mr. Wleh wants to claim. I think yes, the CDC government makes some strides, especially when it comes to taking those guys that were considered supplementary teachers, making them to be permanent. I think that was a very good move. Whether they are effective or not, that's a whole different ballgame. That's a whole different discussion. Whether their pay was increased or decreased, I think Josh came to make a point on that when the government decided to harmonize salary. Now, let me be very, very objective here. The idea of harmonizing a salary in the country was almost like created by CDC. I mean, like CDC are trying to solve the problem she herself created. Because what CDC did from the onset, CDC padded the payroll. CDC increased the civil servants. At the end of the day, she realized that the government could not, or lift revenue, whether domestic or foreign, direct investment or domestic revenue generation to pay civil servants. So it became a big issue. And so you see, that's where Samuel Tuer started running around taking money from places and calling it borrowing initiative, all those stuff, just because you have to meet up with payroll. So because they saw that they padded the payroll, they should have come up, they wanted to come up with something to fix that. And I think that's when the whole harmonization came about. Now, we all here can bear witness that the harmonization makes some people to laugh and makes some people to cry. And that should be another discussion for another day. But just to conclude here, Josh said it right, that the Ellen Johnson Sadiq government, whether she criticized the education system like she did, and what Mr. Wleh said it was true, and it is true. But on her watch, the community colleges were built all around the country. I think that was a very big mark, and we all should applaud that.
Thank you.
When the defeating part, to conclude, my brother, the defeating part here is that when the president announced the free tuition thing, when the president announced the free tuition thing, are you hearing me?
Yeah, go ahead. You quickly.
Hello?
Yeah, we're hearing you.
Yeah, when President Wleh came up with the free tuition, free tuition thing for what they call the post-secondary education, that is college level, a lot of people were happy. I thought it was a very good decision, but I thought it was too hasty, because I don't think the president and the financial team really sat down to draw a plan. Like President Wleh will have called to us and look, this is the thing I want to do. I want to offer free tuition for all public colleges around the country. How can we generate money to pay? First of all, what is the database of how many people go to school in the country, in the community colleges and the other universities? Once you get that number and you calculate, you can do your own math and plus and minus and know how much people spend every year in those schools, and then the government can be able to generate that money, and then it becomes very easy. But I think they did not do that. And the reason I'm saying that is because as we speak, the very public colleges around the country now increasing fees, even though it's tuition free, and they are increasing the other fees, the activity fees and other fees. Like for example, strict example, the community college in Grand Judea County is now asking students to pay $75. And
Thank you,
They were
Mr.
paying by
Yala.
themselves or paying less than that. So I think it was
See,
not
I
well
don't understand the
calculated. That's the
logic of
problem.
this debate now because
Thank you, Mr. Yala. And Mr. Wleh, I want you to stop complaining. Allow us to do our work. Mr. Yala is providing analysis. I'm sorry if you feel anyhow. I will bring in my partner here, Mr. Dennis Jad, to lead questioning on the health sector. We move to the health sector. Mr. Jad.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, we'll say again, welcome, and thank you guys for your time. So I want to announce tonight that we are having judges that are going to be scoring this debate. And if you are here watching, we want you to also score it. Instead of saying, because you are sedition, you say Wleh won, or because you are opposition, you say Lobbo won. We want to get out of that mindset now. So here is what we're going to do. The question here that both Mr. Wleh and Mr. Lobbo are answering is, what Liberia did President Salif or the UP government leave with the CDC, and where is the country now under the CDC? In a couple of focus areas, we started with education, and now we're going to healthcare. So for that, when we ask the question, Mr. Lobbo has 1 time to go, and also Mr. Wleh. So number one, we have for direct. If we ask the question, that's a direct and to the point. You have 1 point for that. Then we have a fact base. Whatever you are saying, tell us, the numbers that tell us that the country was better under Salif than we are, or vice versa. That you get 2 points for that. And then in your rebuttal and counter arguments, you get another 2 points. So, and that's what our judges will be scoring tonight, and we're going to be announcing the winner of the debate. And so if you are watching us, take note of the criteria and also score the debate. We don't just want a blanket Lobbo won or Wleh won, okay? So let's go. Now we enter healthcare. So the question is, for healthcare, what did the UP government leave the CDC government, and where is healthcare today under the CDC government? I think it was Lobbo who went first, and this time, Mr. Wleh, you go first. So you have.
it was Wleh who went first.
You have 2 minutes.
First for the education.
Wleh went first, so it's Lobbo turn.
Okay. So Lobbo, what's the healthcare system did the UP government leave with the CDC government, and where is healthcare today under the CDC government? You have 2 minutes.
Mr. John, thank you for that question, and I hope our listeners can take notes. As a policymaker rather, I always try to be objective as much as I can, looking at the data and looking at the facts. For us to be able to discuss what we give the CDC, I think it's also fair for Liberians to look at what the Liberian people gave the Unity Party, what country they gave us. Because today we're talking about what we gave CDC. But if we look at what we took, what we inherited, I think no Liberian in their rational mind will sit here today and question what we gave the CDC. We remember, Liberians, we inherited a failed state with all its institutions dead, with a government that was not functioning, coming from a transitional government. But one thing we did as Unity Party, we did not make excuses, because we know that Liberians entrusted us to lead and to demonstrate that through our actions. Now, what we did for the Liberian people, don't quote me, quote Joel Howard Taylor, who's the current vice president of the CDC government. When she appeared in Minnesota, Madam Taylor said, and I quote, she said, "I'm grateful to the government. One thing the government did was to make primary healthcare accessible in all districts." Now, what do we mean by that? In Liberia, we do not have most of these major surgical illness in our country. But the Unity Party government under Ellen, and that of Waka, which I'm proud of, we opened healthcare centers in areas that never had it. We increased subsidies for hospitals, private religious hospitals, because we know the government did not have the capacity to take on all the healthcare needs by itself. So what did we do? We allocated more resources to different hospitals to help us. We began the process of building hospitals in areas that never had hospitals. We left for the CDC government a functioning Jackson Doe Hospital at the cost of over $10 million in Lima County. You see, the Unity Party government took decentralization of everything to a core. You go to Maryland County, for example, see the renovation that were done on the hospital. Go to Banga, for example. Look at what we were providing to Phoebe Hospital. We allocated $2.1 million in our national budget supporting Phoebe. We supported all the hospitals. All right. Now let's look at what we did when it comes to training and enhancing the system.
Mr. Lobbo, your 2 minutes are up.
Okay, go ahead. If it's up, that's fine. Stop.
Mr. Wleh, what Liberia did the UP government leave of the CDC, and where is the healthcare under the CDC as of today? 2 minutes.
Yeah, within my 2 minutes, let me quickly say, you brought in an analyst, and the analyst probably—
You are using your 2 minutes for that.
Yeah, using my 2 minutes is not following the fact. When I spoke about the feeding program that I spoke about was launched, it was signed with the WFP on August 27th of 2019. I can send you that information. So it is. I felt disappointed that the analysts would come and speak about something completely different. $50.2 million signed on that particular day. Okay, so go to the health issue. Like I said, in Liberia, for example, according to the World Bank report, don't quote me, go to the World Bank report. The doctor to patient ratios were what? 1 to 15,000 patients when the CDC-led government took over. What happened immediately? When the president took over, he called the medical experts. We had a JFK hospital that was not functioning, that was dilapidated. We had a Johnson Hebdo hospital that was abandoned when we took over in 2018. The medical practitioner, the medical expert were called. Right away, they said that what we need to increase our doctor to patient ratio. So the president said, what can we do? It means that we got to send people abroad to train. Right away, the president said over 60% abroad to get training in different areas of specialty that were lacking in the country. And right now, as we speak, increase the amount of students that are enrolled in the medical area and providing them with more subsidy so we can have the doctor to patient ratio reduced. Those are things that we are doing. And like, this entire debate continuously, I will tell you, don't quote me, right? If you go to the UNICEF, for example, the UNICEF said what? In 2018, Liberia, I'm talking about the UNICEF report on Liberia 2018, go to page 4. In 2018, Liberia exceeded the fantastic national immunization target of 85%. 96.5% as of December of our children were immunized, which is what? Higher than ever before.
Mr. Wleh, your 2 minutes.
Beautiful.
Right.
Oh God,
now,
this is.
Now we go and please use your time wisely. We have 2 minutes. We don't want to show any partiality. So Mr. Lobbo, your rebuttal. 2 minutes.
Mr. Jai, I want to say thank you very much. Let me say this real clear. My brother talked about JFK was not functioning. I hope he understands it. Prior to the Unity Party government leaving power in the 2017-2018 budget, we allocated $10 million to bring JFK up to speed. Anthony, if you can recall, I shared that document with you the other time when you posted it. JFK had an average budget of around $6 million to tell us. Since they came to power, what have been done to provide funding for JFK for Phoebe? In our 2017-2018 budget, we allocated $2.1 million to Phoebe Hospital, $77,000 to Cali Hospital. I want this brother to tell us, for my brother Red to tell us what have been done. Since we left power, hospitals across the country today, ambulances can move. People are dying because of lack of electricity. That did not happen on the Unity Party. Hospitals were fully functional. They were well supported. We also raised, let me say this, Liberians must not forget. We took a registered nurse who was making $15 to making $250 and above. We took a medical doctor who was making $150 in 2006 to making $1,050 depending on your location. What I want him to tell us what have been done to make the sector better. I am not here today to judge because for me it's not about who wins or not. I want Liberians to understand. It is true. We gave the CDC. Our expectation was that the CDC will make good strive on the country they inherited, that they will continue to increase. They will invest more in the healthcare sector, but not to come and allow Phoebe then to collapse, not to come and allow to take equipment from Jackson FDO to bring it to Monuga, not to come to power and ambulance at the government hospital in Buchanan can move. That is not what we expected. This is why we in the United Party are disappointed. We fought hard to bring this country to where it is today. So giving it to them, we expected a lot more better from them. But I'm sorry to say, this is a situation what it is.
Mr.
When you
Lobbo,
talk about training, we send people.
Mr. Lobbo, your 2 minutes.
All right.
All right. Let's keep to the point. And I know this is a strange territory, but we can
No,
make
go
it.
for it. I like it. I appreciate it. No problem. Go for it. Once my time is up, I appreciate
Mr.
it.
Wleh, your rebuttal.
Yeah, quickly. Listen up, please. If you just join me in my 2 minutes, I want to tell you, there's not a debate defending the current performances of the CDC-led government in terms of what the reality should be. I still maintain that the CDC-led government should do better than she's doing now. We owe it to the Liberian people. We took on the responsibility. They had killer attacks, and we got to perform. We cannot make excuses. No more excuses. But I just want to be able to draw the line that the United Party guys should shut up and let's take the Liberian people forward. And the Liberian people will be the judge in 2023. So go to the statistics. My brother here erroneously claimed that they gave $10 million in 2017-2018 to the JFK hospital. I want any Liberia, Google right now, Liberia national budget. In 2017, I'm looking at the budget right now, JFK received an allotment, $5,392,304. That was what was allotted. So my brother here should not come to the public and think that you will put our number and the people cannot be on the reference number. You talk about the Jackson FDO hospital. You talk, he made a false claim. Jackson FDO received $2,394,426 in allotment. I'm not talking about the actual money that I received. What has the CDC-led government done? Okay, I'm not satisfied with the current allotment, but at least it is higher than what they allotted to the JFK and Jackson FDO Memorial Hospital. The healthcare sector, it is anybody around in Liberia right now. Anybody that was in Liberia, I was in Liberia. JFK was dilapidated, was not functioning when CDC took over. JFK has performed a first brain surgery ever in our history. Today, JFK in Liberia, at least in terms of sanitation, is kind of far better. Go across the country. I'm telling you today, CDC have, according to the UNICEF, 115 new health facilities have been equipped with 115 health facilities across, and most of them are in hard-to-reach access area, according to the UNICEF report on Liberia, 2018. In a single year, 115 increase.
Thank
So
you.
these are facts. And the facts are overwhelming. Yeah, I hope I have more time to provide it. I bring people all of the facts.
Thank you. Your time is up. Thank you. And so my question, before we go to the analyst for his 2 minutes, my question to the both of you is this, and I want actual numbers. In healthcare, there are 3 major areas questions that we want to answer. That is access, meaning do people have places to go when they are sick? Do they have access to healthcare? 2, affordability. If they are sick, can they afford to go to hospital? And 3, quality. When they go to hospital sick, do they come back sick or do they come back well? So those are the 3 questions. So based on those 3 criteria, access, affordability, and quality, backed by numbers, Mr. Lobbo and Mr. Wleh, where has the United Party government left Liberia, and where has CDC taken this healthcare thing based on access, affordability, and quality? I don't want you to tell me, maybe, okay, go ahead. And let me start with Mr. Wleh. Do people have access? Do people afford, and is there quality care?
Okay, in terms of access, one, to provide access, you need a lot of things, like especially the southeastern region. Bulk of our patients have to sometimes travel over 60 kilometers to access help. But this government right now, and the reason that is happening largely is because of viral conditions. So to provide access, this government has to speak, is carrying on unprecedented and rigorous road construction exercise across the country as we speak right now. It is ongoing, which will improve access to all of these facilities. But let me read something for the UNICEF here, so it cannot be myself. I don't want to give my opinions and then people say, oh, that partisanship opinion. No way. In the 5 southeastern counties of Liberia, Grand Juda, Grand Coup, Maryland, or GSO, where 40% of the population live more than 5 kilometers away from the nearest health facility. Excellent progress were made in terms of improving the accessibility of the road to access major health facilities in our region. And because of that, as quoted in our UNICEF now, the percentage of under 5 children diagnosed with pneumonia that receive antibiotics from 22, it grew from 22% in 2017 to 84%. I'm not giving my opinion. I am quoting a reputable international institution. So if you want to have this debate should not be between you and myself or Lobbo and myself. I want Lobbo to know that this debate is between the facts, the statistics. But more beyond that, if you look at what UNICEF spoke about the issue of supporting our healthcare workers. Okay, now UNICEF document is claiming here that CDC government have increased the percentage of people that having access to immunization. Before we were always performing below the region, but first time Liberia were able to meet over 96.1% of the target. That was what was done.
Thank you.
Okay. And they said the greatest nutritional success in 2018 was in macronutrient.
Thank you, Mr. Wleh.
Coverage. Over 735,000 children. It's not my opinion. This is the United Nations Children Educational Fund opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Wleh. Mr. Lobbo, where did CDC or UP leave the country healthcare in terms of access, affordability, and quality, and where is it now?
Mr. Jha, very quick on this. I will not be able to give you a specific number given how data is collected in Liberia. That's something I have to do more on it. But I would say when in terms of access in Liberia, access is more referred to people being able to have the ability to go somewhere when they need healthcare, to go there and they get treated. That's accessibility. And it's funny to know that a government whose people are dying at Phoebe because of the lack of electricity is the government that my brother would sit here and tell me that this government have made accessibility to healthcare or have brought quality to healthcare. I will not argue with this, like I said. I will leave that up to the Liberian people. 5, the number of cases of people dying at Phoebe, other government hospital because of lack of basic medical supplies is there. This is not something to come here and knock your chest and talk about it. But I'll say one thing. What we did then, my brother talked about the data in the Southeast. The CDC government recently secured money to extend the second phase of the road. So if accessibility was done as a result of the roads in the Southeast were built by the Unity Party government. So that was what we did. So tell us when y'all will do yours. So even when they look at Liberia, we built these roads. The roads that you're claiming today and want to brag about, those were roads we started constructing. But Mr. Jha, in terms of quality, one thing I want to be very careful when I talk about quality, given the fact that some of us live in the most developed country in the world, the way in which we see healthcare, the quality of healthcare we receive here, I will not be able to sit here and say that same quality is being applied to the healthcare system in Liberia. That is one thing. That is why when I discuss healthcare in Liberia, I always make it very clear that indeed we are not where we should be of the 21st century level. But there were efforts being made. There were investments being made to improve in it. This is why you saw, I'm glad that my brother sat down and said that 5,300,000 were provided to JFK. It's sad. I said something to Alexander. I hope he will post it for the Liberian people to see the fact. JFK averaged around $6 million budget. So are you making it better?
Thank you, Mr. Lobbo. Now for 2 minutes, we give our 2 minutes to our analysts to conclude on healthcare, and then we'll go back to Mr. CA to continue with our next focus area. Mr. Yala.
Yeah, Mr. Jha, first of all, let me just come back here. The argument that Mr. Wleh is putting up or talking about, I was saying something different from what he was saying. Yes, he might be, technically, yes, he was saying something different because if you're going to quote international records, then you got to be precise. His statement was, the feeding program in Liberia started in 2018 under the CDC government, and I came to correct that. I said, no, that was not true. The feeding program did not start that time. So you can go back and check the record. Under the same WHO in 2016, precisely in April, you will find out that the feeding program started. In fact, the program was about homegrown food. So I just want to make that correction. Back to the health sector. I think both groups here I know, have not done enough. But because for the sake of a debate where we have to evaluate who is doing better, who did better, who did what, we'll have to apportion some blames, and we'll have to apportion some credits to either party. So first of all, let me say I agree with Wleh that the doctor to patient ratio was 1 to 1,000 to up to 1,500 when I mean during Ellington and when the CDC took over. Now, if there's any improvement to doctor to ratio doctor to patient ratio, is something we need to check on now. And also, I want to agree with him that the CDC government would take credit for the few medical students that were sent abroad. I don't know what the total number is, but I know there were more than 10% was sent to India to specialize. So, I mean, CDC will take some credit for that. Hopefully, they will complete and come back and serve. Like Mr. Lobbo said, there were means through the Unity Party government to create accessibility to healthcare all around in rural Liberia. Yes, there was some effort made, but it was not enough because there's some rural part of Liberia throughout the CDC government, a certain rural part of Liberia, I mean, not CDC, but the UP government, a certain rural part of Liberia that did not even have clinic, and up to now, they don't even have a single clinic. So while it is true, the Unity Party government was striving to make sure, but they were not able to reach all part of Liberia. To the point of the country performing well, in the health field, Mr. Wleh make a point that JFK carried out the first brain surgery in Liberia. Again, I want him to go back and do research. The first brain surgery in Liberia was not done at JFK, and the one that was done by Dr. Nado in recent time, in 2019, was not the first. The first brain surgery was conducted in Tapeta at the Jackson Fairdoe Hospital under the sponsorship of the Canadian medical, Canadian-based medical team called Lobbo, that's KORLE-BU with the acronym of KNBF. That's a foundation, Neuroscience Foundation from Canada. And Dr. Kete was with them. So if we say the first brain surgery ever in Liberia was done at JFK, then we'll be, we're giving the public false information that's not true. So I just want to make that clear. For the equal path here, I think either government is not ready, or CDC has gone, I mean, the party has gone already, so I would say they didn't really make too much strive. CDC came and blow the horn, in fact, exposed the sector more when they were able to encourage young doctors to support young doctors to go out of country. So we'll hope to see how well they're going to improve it. But as we speak, the health sector in Liberia is in dire need, and it's not improved. It's not up to par, as we compare it with other countries around, like Cote d'Ivoire, like Ghana, like the Guinea, and Sierra Leone.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. I'm co-hosting with the political guy, Mr. Anthony Sia, on the Hour of Politics. We are doing this debate, and if you are liking it, if so far, if you enjoying what we're doing, give us a thumb up. We too, we like praises, just like God who loves praises. So, and we are trying, and we want you to support us, and we continue to keep debate here on Focus on Liberia. Back to you, Anthony, for our next focus area.
Thank you, Mr. Jai, and thank you those who are following us on cyberspace. Quickly here to the next segment of our debate. At this time, we will be going into concession. There were many concessions agreements. Some people put it at 65. The number is around that range. Mr. Wleh will go first in this segment. Mr. Wleh, what concession agreement did the Unity Party leave for Liberia? And we also want to know how is the ruling coalition handling those concession agreements? You have 2 minutes, sir.
Okay, quickly, within my 2 minutes, let me respond. I want our audience to know, this is right now, we are talking about Unity Party 12 years, for the CDC 2 years. So it's a huge gap right there, over 10 years difference. And at the end of the day, we cannot really make an actual grading sheet if we don't understand the ratio and proportion that we're talking about here. But the next thing is, again, I hope our analysts will not be misquoting me. I was very emphatic. I said the government of Liberia World Food Program launched, I did not say first ever feeding program or so. I said a launch of feeding program value over 50 million. Another thing that I said again that he misquoted me, I said JFK performed her first ever brain surgery because we were making reference at the time specifically to JFK. So I said JFK performed her first ever, but the analyst again misquoted me on that point and he said Liberia. Okay, so go to concession agreement. Look, the reality remains, not me again, I will quote reliable sources. Moore Steven is a British auditing firm, internationally accredited auditing firm. They went and conducted audit of all of our concessions that were done during early time. Like I said, the total was 68 concessions agreement done during the early Johnson Sirleaf time. And that only shows that out of 68 concession agreements, 66 of them did not meet the Liberian laws, or they were not credible, they were flawed, they had bribery, all kinds of things inclusive. The global witness, the corruption, all the international organizations. Just Google search it. I want our people here. You might not love the CDC-led government performance right now. I am not satisfied with a lot of things that are happening in Liberia. I support the CDC-led government. But everything I tell you, I don't want you to quote me. Google right now the most recent report on Liberia concession agreement. You will know that out of 68 of the agreements, 66 were Booker's agreement. Okay, and in terms of what they left, that's what they left us. They left a concession agreement that the Liberian people had no jobs. You know what it means? They said they invested what? Over 10 billion or what? 16 billion of foreign direct investment in Liberia. Does that country, under 5 million people, look at any country that had such investment? So there's no jobs across the country.
Thank you, Mr. Wleh. Mr. Wleh, thank you. And let's come to you, Mr. Lobbo, talking about concession agreement. What kind of concession agreement did the United Party leave for CDC, and how is Liberia doing under the CDC with concession agreements?
Anthony, let me be very clear here. My dear brother Wleh started this segment today. He said in his previous statement that the United Nations spent more money in Liberia in FDI than under this government than any government, under the UP government. I'm glad now that we are under the section of concession where I expected him to list those investments made by the UN. He didn't do it. You see, it's not how fast you talk. It's about speaking to the issue. It is true that under the United Party government, there were a lot of concession agreements. I may not have the exact number, some people 66, 67. But here's what I want to say to the Liberian people today. Concession agreements are agreements government enter into with investors from abroad or potential investors from wherever. Those investors will come to your country, they will create jobs, they will establish there. That is the goal. Now, it is good for you to sit here and discuss the UP attracting concessions. If you know the requirement under which a government attracts concessions, then you will say, we'll give credit to the UP government. Because Liberia, one, did not have a stable functioning electricity source of energy, no good roads. But if you are proud to say that we attracted 16.5 billion in foreign direct investment, that should speak to the economic reforms our government initiated that made people to see Liberia as a credible destination to bring their money to invest. One thing many Liberians do not understand about concession agreements and foreign direct investment. It is true we attracted 16.5 billion in foreign direct investment. Madam Sirleaf, in her last annual address, told the Liberian people at the Capitol building that of all the concession agreements that I attracted, only 4.5 billion was invested in the country. My brothers and sisters, this thing, we can't be rocket scientists. If you want for us to look at it, you say there's no job. I don't know where you come from. You say you came from Liberia. Don't you see China Mine operating today? What is that? Is that the CDC that brought China Mine? The Veron plantation that is operating down there. Who brought it? The Total, the gold mine in Bon Mines. All these different.
Thank you, Mr. Lobbo.
Mr. Lobbo, thank you. Let's leave it there. And Mr. Wleh, your rebuttal.
Yeah, my brother, the funny thing is I listened to the brother over there, and he's talking about, that should show you how investment friendly the country was. The truth is, when people ask me what CDC, who are the investors CDC attracting right now, ask them, what resources the early justice study ever left untapped in Liberia? That's the question I asked them. A very simple question. Both the only mountain in Liberia that was left so far, the one in Lofa County, I forget the names there. Anyway, it's not an issue. But the reality remains, one of these mountain, thank you. What the United Party leave for CDC to attract people? We go to Putu Mountain in Grand Judah. We go to Meta Steel. We go to China Union. We go to, how you call the other one in the Bomi area there that the guy came and make all that money, Israeli guys. Everything. We go to out of the sector. They brought early Jerusalem, they brought a scale BRE, become renewable energy. Where are they today? They came and made fabulous promises, turning trees into electricity, all of those things. All kinds of agreement. All the Liberia people can show today was the light of Rabbi Salif and Joseph Waka, Eli Joseph Salif. They were living a better life than all. And Lobbo talking about, even if I should agree with Lobbo, but I know initially they said an investment of over 16 billion. But if I agree with Lobbo for the sake of argument that they got actually over 4.5 billion. $4.5 billion, over $7 billion collected in revenue. That's why. That's $11.5 billion right there. Then beside that, United Nations mission in Liberia in 14 years, which bulk of it was doing in early time. They spent over what? $13 billion over that period. We're talking about over what? About $25 billion in total was spent in Liberia under the regime of Eli Joseph Salif. What do we have? What country she left? With over 80% of the people living in poverty. With over half of those people living in abject poverty, extreme poverty. That was the Liberia that Eli Joseph Salif left. It's not my opinion. The records are there. Google it. These things, I thank God for the likes of Bill Gates and stuff that about. Just Google these things. You have access to the information. Check me repeatedly. In closely, I want the people to know on this subject. I am not here to tell you that Liberia, the CDC government is doing everything that she should be doing. If I was the finance minister of Liberia, going on board, my economic policy could have been different.
Thank you.
What is happening now in Liberia? I'm not certified for the early Joseph Salif government. You know, party-led government. They expected Liberia greater.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wleh. Thank you, Mr. Wleh. Your time is over. And let me come to you with questions now. Mr. Lobbo, you listened to Mr. Wleh earlier. He said that he quoted a British institution that is recognized for credibility that went and assessed the concession agreement that the Unity Party was able to bring to the table. And their assessment was that about 60 of them did not meet international standard. What's your response to that?
Anthony, let me be very, very clear here tonight. When we speak of concession agreements, we must not forget that government consists of branches. It is sad to see my brother here screaming and knocking his chest when many of those concession agreements had to be ratified and signed off by the legislature, which happened to be occupied by many seditionists who remain in government today. I didn't hear them say anything. So those concessions passed. But let me say a few things here to the Liberian people. We must not lose track of the facts. Liberia had a program that came out of Judy Bryant time called GMAT. Those people were there. Anthony, if you recall, one time I sent you the oil agreement to read. In the oil agreement, they said there was a royalty program there, which people refer to it as it was one of the best oil agreements that could be compared to that of Norway. And I sent you that document to read for yourself. Because you see, if our legislature read through the documents and approved it, what I'm not able to do today to keep up with my brother's different stories. I can't keep up with them because one, it seems like he really don't understand what he's saying. Because foreign direct investment, my dear brother Wleh, it is not money given to a government. It is investment that is made under a government. So the 4.5 billion that was invested in Liberia did not go to the government coffers. I want you to understand that now, please.
Mr. Lobbo, if I may interject, the question was, did the agreement reach?
Let me finish. I have my time. I'm addressing the question. So give me a chance. If a British journalist or credible institution said that those concessions were bogus, wherever they determined, which I have not seen, my statement to you here today is that if legislators who were seditious, including the current president, who happens to be a senator in the same legislature, the current vice president, was a senator in the same legislature. So to me, I want to say to you, if they read through it and agree upon it and felt it was important for the country, which they approved, because none of those agreements would have been signed without the ratification of the legislature. What I'm not here to do today is to say, oh, this was wrong, this was right. I have not seen the details
and
of
Mr. Lobbo, quickly, let me interject this. I'm not trying to disrupt you here. It said that the Unity Party, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf in particular, used brown envelopes to induce these lawmakers you're talking about, so that she could get her way.
Anthony, when you come to a professional disco like this, you don't thrive in speculations. I won't do that. As far as I'm concerned, when Liberian elect lawmakers, the expectations is that they will go to Capitol Building and be a representation of the people's interests. How they perform, that is up to them. I'm not here to sit today and speak to something I know nothing of. I did not see brown envelope being given to anybody. It could be alleged. We all know how things are done in Africa. People say it, but I'm not going to sit here today and use this as the basis of my coming to this intellectual discourse. I won't do that.
But George Lobbo, you are on record for calling these people legislators. Why would you think they would not take brown envelopes?
Now listen, no, Anthony, please. When I refer to them as legislators, I have made it very clear that in my own Unity Party government, one of my major problems was income inequality. And I felt that people who go to work for 2 days in a week must not be making 15,000, 10,000. So for me, listen, misappropriation of public resources is something I'm against. So please don't confuse the two of them. I don't want to, Anthony, when I speak, we have to speak so that the records will carry it and that our integrity will not be judged, because today is our reputation we'll put on the line here today. The Liberian people are watching us. What we say today will be brought back tomorrow against us. As far as I'm concerned, I will conclude on this. Concession agreements that were signed, Anthony, let me be very clear. It was ratified and approved by the legislative branch of government, which have the authority, and that which many seditious, the legs of the Akara Grade, Joel Howard Taylor, the George Weah, the Solomon George, the Muna Peno, all of them, the Sabi Joseph, were in Congress. I didn't hear nobody say anything about it. And let me say something to my dear brother. He keeps talking about the jobs.
Quickly, George, you're out of time.
Even though you were stopping me, I'll take it. But I'm just saying, so futurely, let me speak before you interject, so that way I can have my time, but I'll leave it.
We got to make it interactive, so you want about 3 minutes before I interject. Thank you. And let me come to you, MacCullay. Let me come to you, MacCullay, so we can go to our analyst here. You just listen to Lobbo. You have George Weah in the Senate. You have Joel Howard Taylor in the Senate then. You have Akara Gray, Monan Penn, and all these people he named. These people were there and they could not stop this concession agreement, a report you're quoting referred to as being bogus. So how can you just blame Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and the Unity Party on the concession agreements?
Well, quickly, George, I'm so disappointed that there's a guy that go out have Facebook Live and say he's intellectual and he should be on top of things. How can he sit there and give misinformation to the people? It's quite unfortunate. And that year, you're telling me that the brother does not understand what FDI. Does George understand what FDI is equal to me? I know what FDI, I'm not saying that money that was being distributed or given to the government or the Liberian people. No, I'm talking about those should be money that should have impact, that should create jobs, that should help, they help all of our sectors. But let's go to the issue. Another false information. Ambassador George Weah, Akara's Gray, Muna Gray. I want it is disappointing. This guy that claims to be intellectual is not even aware of the Moore Stevens report, the notorious Moore Stevens report that you're not following, that you don't know what happened in Liberia. So it's not my opinion again. Anybody watching the show, just Google Moore Stevens report on Liberia concession, and you will say that's not MacCullay's opinion. The next thing here is you talk about all these people he listed, they were not in the legislature. George Weah, Akara's Gray, all of them were not in the legislature when these deals were being passed. How come can this guy that say he's so intellectual, he does not even understand these things, or he's not tracking? And you talk about CDC, a lot of lawmakers. You know how legislative politics are played? Legislative politics are manipulated game while majority carry the game. CDC has about 17% of the lawmakers. We had 64 representatives at the time. We had 30 senators, which you thought us should be, if my math is correct, 94. CDC had what? About 16 lawmakers, 2 senators, and I can name them. The late Senator Hannah Brand, Senator George Mutu Freeman Smoke, If you divide that number, 16 by 94, if my mother grew up here, thank God for his blessing. It should be about 16% or about 17% of the lawmakers. And the brother said that he tried to make that argument. Most TV, it's a credible institution. A lot of people follow it right now. I'm not here to talk about or defend any thing that happened in Liberia. It's not good. But I want the people to understand that Ellen Johnson said he squandered Liberia's greatest opportunity in your history. Over
Thank you.
$25 billion in 12 years' time. So then Liberia is as poor.
Thank you.
That is disgraceful and that is indefensible.
Thank you, Mr. Wleh. Let's leave it right there and let's come to our analyst yet, Mr. Elizana Yala. Mr. Yala, quickly before you go, our folks in cyberspace, as you can see, this is where you find this kind of conversation. The network is focused on Liberia, and the program is the Hour of Politics with me, Anthony Sia, with Daneja co-hosting. You're going to get nothing but the best. Mr. Yala, quickly.
Okay, Mr. CA, let me just start with concording with Mr. Wleh again concerning the bogus concession agreements. Yes, according to international report, and in fact, according to the report he just alluded to, there was 68 concession agreements, and out of that 68, we only have 6 that met compliance according to the Liberia law. 62 of those concession agreements were not good. Granted, and I agree with him 100%, he was right. And I heard Mr. Lobbo coming on. I don't think Mr. Lobbo was dismissive of that. Mr. Lobbo alluded to that also, giving credit to Mr. Wleh that yes, there are a lot of bogus concessions were signed. Now, Mr. Wleh make a point by saying, first of all, he started by saying, what did the Unity Party government leave in Liberia so much that could be tapped into, or what was not on tap before they left, except for Wleh. I'm paraphrasing, I'm not quoting him directly, except for Wleh. So, okay, let's take the argument for face value that there was nothing. Ellen touched everything before she left, beside Wleh. Then the question would be, what is CDC waiting for? First of all, with the 62 bogus concession agreement, these are documents that were signed into law. There's a way around that you can repair them. So if you know the documents are not good, I mean, those agreements are not good, and now you in power, I think you should be taking some action. So throwing these, blame games around the place, still blaming people who already served and left, who we all assume that did not do well, will not also help the Liberian people. Now you in the driver's seat, you should be able to fix those stuff. So I think it defeats the purpose of the debate when we all know that there were 62 concession agreements that were not good, and now CDC who criticized those agreements that were not good, and we all know that now it's now in power. So what is she doing? That's the question we want to hear Mr. Wleh answering. What is she doing to fix those things? Wleh is untapped. I agree with him. And there are other places there are other natural resources in the country that are also untapped. But I'll just take Mr. Wleh's point and go to Wleh. The question here will be, what is CDC waiting for? Now, they agree that everything was tapped beside Wleh. But Wleh is a mountain with iron ore. And Mr. Sonny, if you check, the current statistic tells you that Wleh carried more than 1 billion tons of iron ore, 1.271 billion metric tons of iron ore at 30 to 45% iron. So are we saying that Unity Party government took all the contacts away? Is that what we're saying? CDC government never had anything in making that when they take over, they will be very innovative. They will bring they will create a private sector, to create an environment for the private sector to grow, for people to get jobs. Is that what we're saying? I don't think so. But again, that's what we look up to CDC to do. So to come and say the Unity Party government left, they touched everything beside Wleh. I mean, even if that's true, then what are you doing? You've been in power now 2 years. Are you going to create an environment conducive for private investment so your people can get jobs? Those are the questions those are the questions. Those are the unanswered questions that we look up to CDC to answer. Today's price of iron ore is $88.60 per US ton. And you get 2.7 billion tons laying down somewhere where nobody got a contract about. So don't just forget about ArcelorMittal, China Union, what they call them, the other people there in bombing there. I think what they call them, what's the name? Some range, Beer Mountain Group or something like that. Western Cluster. Don't forget all those people. Don't forget about Putu Iron Ore. Let's go to Wleh that nobody touched. And when we saw Samuel Tuwe coming back to us from China saying that you're going to do the resource swap, some of us were saying economically it made a lot of sense. In fact, when they said it, or if they knew they were going to talk about it in China, I thought they should have gone to China with an economic module that would be able to convince the Chinese people or whosoever wanted to get into that business to tell them exactly what they want to swap, what quantity of that they want to swap, how much it will cost, and how much that money will be, how that money will be used for the Liberian people. All we heard from Mr. Tua when he came back, he said there will be resource swap. The group will come from China and they will tell the Liberian people what kind of area they want, which area they want to go, what kind of mineral they want, and they will tell us exactly what they want to do. And when I heard that, personally, I felt very disappointed because we just saw Ghana did similar thing. Ghana was able to leverage on her bauxite to the China Exim Bank. But when they want to do that resource swap with the China Exim Bank, they already knew they wanted to use bauxite. They knew how many quantity of bauxite they wanted to use to generate $2 billion United States dollars. So it was not like they wanted the people to say, "Oh, come to my country and can't see what you want to." So the question on the table now will be: United Party government left. They blundered with the country. I agree with Mr. Wleh 100%. 62 concession agreement was bad. They got the biggest foreign direct investment. They scrambled everything. Now you're in power. 2 years now. What is your innovation? Thank you.
Thank you.
Respectfully, could I ask a question?
Who?
This is MacCullay.
We got program. We're going according to you can use your time. Let's proceed. We got time. The panelists, that's how the rules. We got to play by the rules. Let's proceed.
We're going to move to
You're
the
not a moderator, Lobbo. That's why I said respectfully. That's what professional people do. You ask respectfully. You are not accept or deny.
Come on now. I'm in the house. That's how we do it here on Focus on Liberia. This is the Hour of Politics with my main man, Anthony Sia. I'm co-hosting here with him. This where did the Unity Party leave the country and where is it now under the CDC? So we go to our next focus area, and that's freedom. We have freedom of the press, freedom of speech, and freedom of assembly. So where did the Unity Party leave the country when it comes to freedom of the press, freedom of speech, and freedom of assembly? And this time, and where are we now with those three major areas under the CDC government? And Mr. Wleh, when you come, please, and both of you, please don't forget, we don't want to only dwell on where it was, where Ellen level, we want where the UP government level. We want us to also focus on where it is now. So, Mr. Wleh, you go first on this one.
I think I'm the first on this.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I keep missing this one. Sorry.
I'm the first on this one.
So please go first, Mr. Lobbo.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Jai, on the issue of freedom of the press and freedom of assembly. Hold on. Freedom of assembly and freedom of speech. Okay, great. Thank you for that. So you see, on the issue of freedom of speech, Mr. Jai, Liberians were allowed under the Unity Party government to express themselves. Those are some of the conditions that make us to enjoy the amount of foreign direct investment we enjoy. People knew that they could come to Liberia and there was justice. That journalists could express themselves, could write stories, and they would not go missing. That journalists would not be brutalized by police and would die days after. That press, that radio stations would not be shut down no matter how many times they insulted the Unity Party government. That is what we did. When it comes to freedom of assembly, Mr. Jai, the Unity Party government allowed the CDC. I think the CDC, for its existence, if my recollection is correct, I think they hosted more protests in the Republic of Liberia than even the True Party, that's one of the longest political parties in our history. So we allow freedom of assembly. We allow the CDC to protest up and down. But let's look at every time opposition supporters gather or they assemble. With Darius DeLong at the Liberty Party, we saw what happened. With Cornelia Crow in district number 13, peaceful Unity Party supporters were brutalized. In district number 15, we've seen total lawlessness under this government. The rule of law does not seem to exist. And since my brother is quoting reports, I will ask him to please read the recent 2019 US government report on Liberia, where it even mentioned the killing of a journalist. So much have happened under this government that freedom of speech no longer seems to exist. Liberians today, they tell us every day that under the UP government, we could say this about Ellen, we could say this about other government officials. That does not seem to exist under this government. What I want to hear today is what have been done to protect press freedom, what have been done to protect freedom of assembly. Every time Liberians gather opposition supporters, they have been brutalized. And what have this government done? So for me, Mr. Ja, one of the basic conditions for you to attract foreign direct investments, they say you must create an enabling environment. The rule of law is very important. If you want investors to come to your country, you better make sure that the rule of law exists. Freedom of speech is key, and that is why they're struggling.
Thank you. Mr. Wleh, where did the Unity Party leave the country in terms of freedom of speech, freedom of press, and freedom of assembly? And where is the country now under the CDC?
Okay, using my own 2 minutes, I hope that we can be able to respond to some of the comments people making. I rather want to respond to Jerry Wilson or Henry Wheeler and Stephen, all of these people. They have some inquiries.
We'll have time for that. We'll have time.
Okay,
please.
thank you. No, I just using my 2 minutes now, right? So, but in terms of freedom of speech, Unity Party-led government, the evidence are there. Don't quote MacCullay. I continue to say it because if you listen to me, you say, oh, the guy here, you say he's defending the government. No, I'm a realist. I can tell you a lot of things that in Liberia that I'm so happy about. But I go to the issues. During the early Johnson Sirleaf-led government, we had opposition prisoners in Liberia. We had journalists and media practitioners being incarcerated and everything. During the regime of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who spent so many years in the Western world, we had sedition, we had labor, all of these things were on the book against journalists. And Lobbo wants to talk about freedom of speech. If our Lobbo, I would disown the Unity Party when it comes to that, because they did nothing after Liberia committed ourselves to the Table Mountain Declaration that should provide protection for journalists and media practitioners. We have Vandana Patriot, the name of few. Mova Molu were incarcerated. Akaras Gray several times. We have the likes of Henry Costa were incarcerated. We have what's the name? Rodney Shear were incarcerated. Oh no, Ellie Johnson Sirleaf's wash. That's not MacCullay's opinion. Google search any of these things, you'll find it very easy to find. Thank God to technology. Where are we today? What is the CDC-led government today? The first thing we have done, President, we are called a media guide. What can I do? And the major concern they had was the issue of what? Repealing all of those laws. Sorry, I'm not a lawyer, and maybe I will not be in a position to put it off here. But right away, if I should just run quick through what I got here, they passed the Abdullah Camara law that decriminalizes free speech. That's something that Unity Party failed to do after committing us to the Table Mountain Declaration. For 12 years, they consider free speech to be criminal offense. In Liberia today, it is no longer. Who did that? It was President George Weah under the regime, under the CDC-led government. The facts are there. The facts are there. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Wleh. Now it's time for your rebuttal.
Is it me?
Yes, please.
Okay, I will keep it very short and simple for this issue. I don't think we need to drag on it. The recent US government report is out there. I think many Liberians read it, they've seen it. One of the reasons why this government is struggling is because of this government poor human rights record, this government terrible record on the rule of law. The reason why no investors want to trust this government, the country is not stable. So I don't need to sit there and be lying. The reason you don't have no one want to come to the country to do business is clear. So sitting here and talking about this, but I would say one thing, under the Unity Party government, there's no journalist that ever died from police brutality. Under the Unity Party government, I cannot recall how many times other political parties, citizens, or at senatorial elections were brutalized, special elections were brutalized. Look, let me say this to the Liberian people. Madam Sirleaf won the Nobel Peace Prize Award as President of the Republic of Liberia. My brother Wleh, I hope you read the requirements for someone to win such a Nobel Award. Not only that, when Madam Sirleaf left power, the Ibrahim Award had gone 2 years. No one won it. Madam Sirleaf won that award and received $5 million. I would let you to send you read, you say you do read, do the research and see the requirements for a president to win it. And why that award went 2 years unclean until Ellen left Liberia as president. So what I would say today, Mr. Ja, and to the Liberian public out there, you know what has been happening in Liberia. You have seen the closure of Henry Costa radio station. You've seen the burglary at Henry Costa radio station. You've seen other journalists being maltreated by this government. So many cases, so many of them. I can't sit here today to make myself look good. The Liberian people will judge for themselves. They know the facts, and they will listen to us. They will know who's been real here today. It's not about how much time you shout or knock your chest. That is not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is to allow the facts to guide us and the reality on the ground. Let the people who have been there and read the reports, read the U.S. report. The U.S. 2019 report, like very, very clear.
Mr. Wleh, your rebuttal.
Thank you. Quickly, you know, my brother, you gotta respect that. You got, you know, reading is a virtue. You want to talk about the famous Nobel Peace Prize? Ellen won the Nobel Peace Prize. It was very specific and clear. She and Lobbo. It was because of her advocacy on women's rights. So let's be very clear. It was on a specific issue. And one of the reasons why I want to talk about women's rights, because she was achieved as the first female president. So don't get that mixed up. You should learn to read better and read comprehensively about these things. But I go to the next claim you're trying to make there. You say Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Seditious was shut out for protesting. Are you not aware? Go and read the 2011 U.S. State Department report on Liberia. It took the United Nations peacekeeper to defend sedition. George Wleh was almost assassinated that day. People lost their life on that day on the famous CDC rally that the president went inside and bombing. So you got to know the facts. You got to be on top of these things if you want to engage in the public debate. And like you're talking about United Nations, I want every Liberian right now to Google search the United States Department 2017 report on Liberia. What Lobbo want to talk about here? Go and read it. It will tell you. You can just read the executive summary. It will give you the most significant human rights issue, including extrajudicial killing by police abuse, harassment, intimidation of detainees and others, arbitrary arrest and detention, press harassment, official corruption, lack of accountability in cases of violence against women and children, including rape, domestic violence, and all of these things. I am quoting 2017. Then you want to come and tell me about the current report on Liberia. This has been, the CDC has to do better now. Yes, the onus is upon CDC, and I expect CDC to look at this report and take it very seriously and critically, because we as Liberians can no longer take excuses. We have suffered too long. The ordinary people have suffered, and Ellen Johnson Sirleaf May was suffering worse in 12 years, and George Wleh, the ordinary masses look up to you to make a difference. 2 years is not a time to make excuse. I am not here making an excuse for CDC. I'm just telling the Liberian people that the Unity Party folks should shut up and let's move forward.
Thank you. They say it's not nice to tell people to shut up, Mr. Wleh. All right. What happened, Mr. Sia? You want to ask a question?
I want to ask a question, and this time I'm going after Mr. Lobbo with a tough question. Mr. Lobbo, during the reign of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, all the Unity Party, like Mr. Wleh said, Rodensier at some point was shut down, his newspaper, and he went to jail, and there was a charge against him by the government. Vendela Patrick also went to jail. That was during Ellen regime. Mamba Molu went to jail. Koji went to jail. Harry Graves was gruesome Lemanda. I think one Yense, who happened to be a lawyer, was also gruesome Lemanda. These things happen under the watch of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf / Joseph Boakai / Unity Party. Do you have a better record as a party?
I'll tell you, Anthony, yes, I'll still tell you, yes, we do. Because, Anthony, when you read some of the grants we got, I will ask every Liberian to read the requirement for the 2015 $257 million compact grant we got from the US government. If you recall, it's a group called MCC. The MCC, there's a scorecard a government must meet. And the records are there based on different sectors. That is how a country qualifies. And the record states that since Liberia as a country, it took us 2015 for us to qualify for that grant. We met that. But let me say this today, Anthony. On the issue of the question we began this segment was on the issue of free speech and freedom of assembly.
And press.
Yeah. So now let me say this to you. You list the name of Ronnie Say went to jail, his paper was shut down. Whatever the charges was, Liberia is a country of law, right? If the government ever did something to you and you feel it is wrong, that is why people take government to court. That is why one thing was done under the UP government, the rule of law existed. So Ronnie Say went to court. Ronnie Say was free. Ronnie Say had his newspaper open again. Now, if you want for us to take a case by case, we can go to Vandala Patrick. Vandala Patrick made a claim on the government that he had no facts about. So these things, regardless of that, because when you make allegations that involve a threat, especially against a sitting president, then the government has the responsibility to call you in for question. And at the end of the day, Vandala Patrick was free. We record that. So many of these circumstances, what were they arrested for? But did the rule of law allow them to go and be freely given due process? That was the most important thing when we discuss government. One thing my brother did not speak about. We must refer to the Ibrahim Award. That
Thank you, Mr. Lobbo. Thank you.
Receive that award.
Thank you, Mr. Lobbo. All right. Let me go to Mr. Wleh with my question. Mr. CA, this is my segment. So I see you are hot.
I'm hot. I got one for Mr. Wleh. It's a political biddable. I don't know if he can take it, but go first.
Let me ask Mr. Wleh, and then we'll go to the analyst and move to our next round. Our callers are waiting.
All right.
So Mr. Wleh, the same question to Lobbo. We also see that on the day of June 7th, the entire internet was shut down. The radio station of Henry Pedro Costa closed. We also see that in fact he had to flee for his life. You know, we see the peaceful being water cannon and all these things taking place. Well, what do you say about the CDC record on freedom of speech, freedom of press, and freedom of assembly?
And if I may add, hold on, if I may add, Patrick Hunter is still now operating, even though there was a ruling from the court. What is stopping that?
And Zeno Miller is dead, even though there are some, he complained of being brutalized by the
EPS.
The EPS.
And one journalist by the name of Kennedy Kola were also beaten. All right.
My man are too much now.
And recently, Mr. Jai, if I may help you there, Emmanuel Savage, an advocate, was brutalized again by the EPS. Is the CDC of freedom of the press or speech and assembly? Answer that question.
Okay, as I answer that question, quickly, I want to make some correction on some false claim my brother made. Rodney Say did not go to court and was released. Rodney Say was sentenced to prison. He was in jail rather for all the years. It took international pressure for them to release him. So let's get that fast clear. The next thing you talk about Vandala Patrick lie on the government, this and that, and stuff like that. No, Vandala Patrick was arrested because of the women or colloquial or whatsoever the right pronunciation of that word is that it held. So Lobbo, you got to follow the facts and understand the facts to come public. That's why I always advise a lot of you guys that always doing the Facebook Live thing. But let's go to the CDC-led government. The first thing, Zulu Miller family, Mr. Jai, to answer your question. Don't take it from me. If you follow him, which of course I trust you, I know you following things in Liberia. Zulu Miller family said that no, Zulu Miller has been sick, and in fact the government offered to do an autopsy. They said they were satisfied with what was conducted in the country. They know exactly that the brother died a natural death. So who am I or who are you to question that? Okay, I can't cry more than a bereaved. Simple. Let's go to the issue of freedom of speech. The greatest achievement, and nobody who can argue that, the greatest reliance for anybody in your country is the law. And the Unity Party-led government sat down over Liberia for 12 years and they criminalized free speech for 12 years. And the CDC-led government came in less than 2 years were able to decriminalize free speech. So today, even if the government naively, which I will never defend, if the government should naively arrest anybody for exercising the freedom of speech, the right to free speech, they have legal reliance. They will not be charged criminally because they exercise the right. That is the greatest achievement. Who can argue that? Who does that? Come on, man. Like a real year. Like Lobbo understanding facts. It's about the legality. Yes, there are instances. I was not like this guy that I fought for the establishment of the service for Canada. I follow his issue. I empathize with him. I sympathize with him. I feel so sad. I don't want to see those kind of things happening in Liberia. That was unprofessional for our security forces from the information I gathered so far. And
thank you.
Many Liberians should condemn it. And going forward, nobody have Liberia. George Wleh is the one that decriminalized.
Mr. Wleh, thank you. We don't want to meet you. Let's leave it there. And you could not touch on the shutting down of the internet, which was a greatest disservice to the people of Liberia. I take serious exception to that. I don't have my feeling on this one. All right, you can do that when you have some time when we go to the other segment.
All right. So Mr. Analyst, so just briefly in 2 minutes or less, just
no, let's give the analyst the 2 minutes. That's a lot of guys throw out there.
Yeah, I said 2 minutes or less. We don't want the analysts to go beyond that. Just stick to the issues that it do, and then let's move on. We have still a lot. It's hard. You please unmute yourself.
There's a lot you guys throw out there. I will stay within the time frame of 2 minutes. The bottom line here is change. That's the key word here for the whole debate. What did Unity Party leave, and how is CDC handling it? So I will base my analysis on that. First of all, let me start with the Unity Party government. Most of the things Wleh alluded to that has to do with abuse of people's rights and other stuff about the Unity Party government, most of them are true. Like for example, there were a lot of bogus charges against individual Liberians, specifically from some ethnic group. For what reason, best known to Ellen, and she incarcerated those people. Even when they went to court, up to the Supreme Court, the case, everybody could tell that the case was manipulated because there was no clear-cut evidence from government to prove that you guys were engaged in the act for which government charged them. That was wrong, very wrong. Okay, CDC protested and the guy shot at. That was also wrong, even though I do not agree with the argument that Moba Modu said about 8 to 9% died, which of course was a big lie, because there was not one person that we know about died from there, because that's the only number of person family members came to identify to know their person. Came to the public to say their person passed away. The other people I saw, CDC had some coffins, which they never opened them for people to see it, and I thought it was a cheap propaganda. But the idea of firing a protester was wrong on the Ellen government also. The idea, like the point he raised about Ellen winning the Nobel Peace Prize, George came up with that point. Fine, it's a fine point, but again, Wleh was right because it was specific. They were talking about women's rights and other stuff. Women's struggle into this war. That's how she and Bowie, the co-shared that particular prize. The more Ibrahim stuff, and he gave it to Ellen based on good leadership, according to him. Again, who knows what kind of propaganda Ellen had out there or whatsoever? But we know from the base, from the nitty-gritty, from the ground itself, Ellen government was not too much free of harassing people and other stuff. But we're going to give it to Ellen. We're going to give it to the Unity Party government for actually looking the other way, allowing people to protest. In fact, on many occasions, Ellen had to engage the protester. I will give her credit for that. Okay, so CDC government coming in now, we thought all those things should change for the best. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Like Sonny said, what is the essence of you shutting down the internet because people decide to assemble peacefully to address issues that they feel concerned about? What did they do for the government? How did they help the government? How did they help solve a problem in Liberia? You shut down the whole internet. That was a very petite and very cheap action on the part of the government. Okay. Now the idea of giving credit to CDC for decriminalizing press speech, free speech. Yes, on paper. Yes, CDC will take the credit. But is that actually being done in the country? That's a whole nother ball game, you know? So sometimes we have these leaders, they come into power, they say good things, and the action is different. Or sometimes they say something different and they do something different. I saw President, we are very infuriated when he went to open some market building, I think somewhere on the old road, you know, telling the Liberian people, anybody who insult the president, you'll now walk freely. You just decriminalize free speech. And just somebody insulting you is what? Insulting you is not criminal offense. If you feel insulted and it cause damage to your person, or whatever, you could sue the person and go to court, and the court will look into the matter and see whether it causes you pain and suffering or whatsoever. But to say you will deal with them, that was also wrong. So again, the whole thing here is just, I think the Liberian people are just the victim. The leaders will come in with their own thing. When they leave, other person will come, so give me the chance, I will do better. When they come, they do worse, or they do the same thing. So my thing here is the how they call it, the whole how they call it, topic now will be based on change. You told us you were coming in, we should give you the chance. You're going to change some of the wrong things. Are you changing them? That's the question on the table. And for me, from my analytical standpoint, I don't think there's enough how they call it change. CDC is carrying on.
Thank you. So for the record, you took 4 minutes, 51 seconds. We just want to make note of that so that
Wow.
Yeah. And now this takes us to our last focus area, which is reconciliation. Again, folks, if you just join us, this is focused on Liberia on the Hour of Politics. For each of those areas, we are judging. We have judges, 3 judges, and you're going to see them very shortly. We are judging them on how direct and to the point they are to the question, answering that, or based on the facts, that we want them to be fact-based. And then also we want them to on their rebuttal and their counter argument. If you did that very well, you get 5 points for that section. And so we come to reconciliation. Where are we? Where have we been and where are we now when it comes to reconciliation?
On this segment, I think it's MacCullay to go first. And Mr. Wleh, you heard that Unity Party left a unified and reconciled Liberia for CDC. True or false? And then your response.
Well, it's false. To put it succinctly, it's false.
Okay.
But I go quickly within my 2 minutes. I can use it for anything. Let me respond. You know, the analyst, I think you analyze and then you say you give it to Unity Party, and then I don't understand when the indicators are very clear. Free speech for criminalized, to decriminalize speech, that's a real leap. That's a real leap. Practical, yes, we may argue there are time for time, but today, can you say today, the like of who, go in Liberia, go and see how many radio stations we have today, how many TV stations, how many different media institutions in Liberia, unprecedented. Of all, they are in 1,000 if you combine all of them today in Liberia. Unprecedented. We have a 50-50 team match in there. We have different talk shows every day. People criticizing the president. Nobody have gone to jail. Nobody. Are you taking note of that very essential part? Nobody have gone to jail for exercising a free right, unlike Ellen Time, where several people went to jail. Then how will you say you give it to Ellen? Nobody had gone to jail. That got to the issue of reconciliation. I tell people, man, I'm a practical person. When I hear people talking about reconciliation, I say, look, I don't want to spend much of my energy in reconciliation because there are a few things I know that, one, we got a segment of our population which most people don't want to accept, which are the Mandingos, which is ludicrous. You know, it's naive. People always claim Mandingo people now, there's a generalized it. So that's a thing that is difficult to say we can reconcile, or I don't know how we can address that thing because it's hard. During the early justice at the time, we saw what happened when she appointed Musa Berete and they went to investigate Mandingo and the other locals in that crisis for land thing. And that stuff was never resolved in transition to the CDC-led government. For what I'm told, great progress has been made. I think people now have accepted and there are settlement and stuff that are ongoing. I don't have all of the facts to that particular issue, so don't take my word for it, but I just talking off head on that issue. And then when we talk about genuine reconciliation in Liberia, genuine reconciliation comes with economic empowerment, empowering the people. Look, if the people are in power, opportunities there. Some of the previous things our people make confusion on.
Mr. Wleh, thank you. Your time is over, and then let me.
The CDC-led government need to double up.
Yeah, your time is over. Sorry, I have to mute you there. Let's bring in Mr. Lobbo. And Mr. Lobbo, quickly, Liberia unknown President Wleh is being unified and reconciled. True or false? And your response.
It's false. If Liberia under President Wleh was unified, President Wleh would not appoint a born naturalized Nigerian to be a NEC boss. So that's clear. But let me speak to something. My brother Red took his time to run about because he has nothing to point to when it comes to reconciliation efforts by his government. You know, I like this segment because George Wleh, one of the bases upon which he was elected was because many Liberians said he was a man of peace. He was a unifier. So Liberians expected that George Wleh would be the guy to lead reconciliation. Am I satisfied with what was done for reconciliation from the Unity Party government? No, I'm not. But were some efforts made in that area? Yes, absolutely. What were those efforts? We must not forget, Liberians told us that George Wleh is the best unifier on the planet Earth, giving his records. What did the Unity Party government do? We hired the best reconciler to help us reconcile the country because the Unity Party government were giving people jobs based on their expertise. So we brought in the best unifier. We allocated 500,000 through the Ministry of Internal Affairs. I think what I expected my brother Red to tell us now is to tell the Liberian people what this reconciler did for us. Now, it is easier to sit and blame Ellen that she didn't do nothing. It's like telling us, we hire a medical doctor to perform surgery. You refer the medical doctor, we brought him, and you say we did nothing. In my own opinion, one of the reasons why I still believe that there will be no true reconciliation in Liberia as long as people who committed heinous crimes are running with impunity in Liberia. I strongly believe that there needs to be an establishment of the war crime court. And let's look at that again. After the TRC, what did Madam Sari do? She sent a bill to Congress that they should approve the implementation of the TRC. Our legislature refused it. So that was not on her. So efforts were made. Do I believe that more needed to be done? Yes. But at least I want to take this time to acknowledge the efforts that were made in that area. The fact that Ellen allocated 500,000 to reconciliation and hired George, who failed to deliver.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Lobbo. Mr. Jai, I want us to do something in this segment, and we'll bring our analysis in. I don't want to waste too much time on this.
Let Mr. Wleh rebuttal.
Yeah.
Mr. Wleh, your rebuttal.
Quickly, Mr. Jai, you talked something that I just remember, but you talk about me saying United Party folks should shut up, and that was probably disrespectful. I don't like people using harsh words. I'm a father, and I try to keep my children in that. So I want to say, yes, that was not the best choice of all, and I own up to that. You know, that's totally unacceptable. You know, but let's go to the issue of the reconciliation. And I want my brother Noble to pay attention. You know, I love something, man, that they call attention to detail. And I always say this to people because when you miss the details, then you miss the substance. The reality remains, I never stated or I never blamed Ellen in terms of reconciliation when I was talking here about reconciliation. And he said, we hired this and you want to blame Ellen. I never blamed Ellen when I spoke about reconciliation. I said I was very clear. The TRC report that he's making reference to that Ellen sent to the legislature, Ellen Watt acted on good. It was Senator Geraldine Doe-Sherry, the late, that sent out a communication to the Liberian legislature asking that the president should be impeached if she cannot enforce or send before then the TRC something for it to be passed. That's how anyone ceremoniously she used or how you call the guy or Western guy feeling and they brought it and it went it's suppressing and this and that. The truth is Liberian people, including our current government. And I would tell people, man, I am also equally disappointed that up to now we are not going to hold people accountable for atrocities that were committed. I'm not excited about that. I am disappointed. I can never defend that. No way. I want to make that clear. But the reality remains beyond the war crime scene. The major reconciliation challenge we have in Liberia is the economic deprivation of our people. If our people are in power economically, a lot of some of the things that we have there, they will not even be issues. But because look, hungry men or angry men, our people are poor, our people are suffering. So it's still a lot of anger and confusion and stuff like that. So that's my issue for reconciliation. I believe that, look, the Unity Party-led government, the CDC-led government on reconciliation, I will not grade CDC or Unity Party, though it has been just 2 years compared to Unity Party 12 years. So that one thing to pay attention to too.
Thank you, Mr. Wleh. And gentlemen, on this segment, I will not be asking questions. I want us to do this. I feel that both administration, I know CDC has some time. Yeah.
Can Lobbo go with his rebuttal?
That's why I was waiting to ask.
Yeah, please let Mr. Lobbo go with his rebuttal. Let's and then we move on. Come on, Mr. Lobbo.
You know, I would say this very clear again. Today, I'm not here to go back and forth with Wleh. What I'm here to do is to speak to the Liberian people and allow them to listen. George Weah was elected on the promise that he's a reconciler, that he will unite the country. And I want to be very clear. Since he became president, George Weah have done more to separate the country than he has done to unite the country. And even during the Unity Party government, when he was hired to help in reconciling the country, he didn't do nothing. So, but I will say this to you, Mr. Ja, Anthony, and our panelists and the public out there. Reconciliation in Liberia will have to be done from a holistic point. A government needs to look at this seriously, because having perpetrators of heinous crime, marginalizing others, being in government, receiving huge salaries in government, serving in government, will do us no good. I strongly believe that we can do better. One thing I have not heard from my brother Wleh today to really be able to tell us is that in as much as you've been able to state what we didn't do, Wleh have not told us anything they've done better, anything they've done to improve the living condition of the people, anything they've done to attract investment, anything they've done to foster peace in the country, anything they've done to reconcile the nation. All he has done here today again is to continue with the talking points from back and forth. But like I said, Madam Sali could have done more, and that is where I stand on reconciliation.
Thank you. And gentlemen, on reconciliation, let me start with you, Mr. Wleh. Can we agree that the Unity Party failed the Liberian people on reconciliation? And can we agree that so far the CDC is failing the Liberian people on reconciliation? I want a yes or no on this one, no explanation.
Well, I agree that Unity Party failed, and the CDC is failing now.
Thank you.
I don't like yes or no, though.
You answered my question. And Mr. Lobbo, do you agree that the Unity Party failed the Liberian people on reconciliation? And do you also believe that CDC is failing the Liberian people on reconciliation? Yes or no?
You know, the yes or no question is hard because efforts were made. So to just sit and say no is not true, because efforts were made. We hired a reconciler to help us. But I would say overall, yeah, I would just go ahead and say yes, because I expected more than what I got. Yes.
Here is my question. One of the major areas where we need reconciliation, number one, till now, we still have the Congo versus country divide. There was a war which really degenerated into a tribal war in Liberia, tribe against tribe. They were fighting forces formed on the basis of tribes or ethnic groups. What has the Unity Party-led government, now the CDC, done to bridge, one, the Congo country divide, and also to reconcile tribes that were at each other's throat during the war? Mr. Lobbo, you go first on that. 1 minute.
I think Mr. Ja, on this issue, the brother talk about, I recall when one of those committees that was set up, I remember Vice President Joseph Boaka was even appointed by Madam Salif to spearhead some of those efforts. I recall there were committees that went to Nimba, given the fact that I grew up there. In all honesty, I think one thing Madam Salif did, that's one of the reasons why it was hard for me to say yes. You see, having an all-inclusive government, Mr. Ja, itself is also another form of reconciliation. When certain group of people do not feel excluded from the participation of government, when people have the say in their own country's affair, I think that was one thing that for which I applauded Ellen, by giving the fact that Ellen was able to appoint a lot of opposition into her government, a lot of people from all backgrounds, and I think in the government, that was one thing that I appreciated. Yes, I still expect more. And the issue of Congo and Native, Mr. Ja, I try to stay far away from that conversation, because for me, I strongly believe that people must be given the opportunity to perform in government based on their ability to perform. I see all of us as Liberians, given the fact that Liberia was a country founded by free slaves. I do not want us limiting Liberia to a certain group of people. And I hope that this generation that I am part of, that we all can do it in this new Liberia, so that we stay away from this Congo divide, this tribe. This is why when I meet Liberians, I don't ask you for your tribe. I don't know what religions you belong to. I don't want to know which political party you belong to, except you voluntarily want to tell me, because what is important to me is that we all belong to one country. Liberia was founded by free slaves, and I think we should be able to coexist, and that is my position on that. Mr.
Wleh, same question.
Yeah, for fairness, he took a little over 3 minutes, but let me go to the answer right there quickly.
No, he did not. He used 1 minute for 3 seconds.
The truth is, if we talk about the Congo native divide, you know, like Lobbo says something, and on this one we can agree. I don't love to really go into that particular subject matter too. You know, I've been seeing some people saying, you know, making some claims. Like I see Stephen P. Carter talk about, oh, both Ellen George Weah, they have all included all sides of Liberia in the government. To be honest, to be fair to Ellen and to be fair to George Weah. Today we have economic advisor. People say, I hear people, oh, they bring the Congo people by again. What's his name? Ashiba Bernard. We see how you call this guy here, or Imaya Shaw. We see all these people. Even when they appointed the current education, the current agriculture minister, I see people, you know, the parents and seditions and all talking about the same thing. So, you know, that whole thing, I can't condemn Ellen, I can't condemn Weah in terms of that whole thing, because they have tried, they have played a part. But like I stated, you guys forgetting the reality of this thing. The reason why these things are still living, they are still alive, is because of the economic inequality that is in the country. Okay, but in reality, you talk about appointment of opposition. Josh, we have appointed opposition. Let's go to the Ministry of Internal Affairs. The Internal Affairs Minister is an opposition. Let's go to in fact, seditionists are complaining. I see seditionists complaining that, oh, they still keeping some of the old people there, this and that. So I would say both of them have tried. It's just that we need to do better in empowering our people, and all of those things will quiet down by itself.
Thank you. You guys are saying, well, nobody likes the Congo country, but it exists. But you guys are, you know, saying, well, don't talk about it. And you also did not mention what either of the government is doing concerning the tribal wars and how ethnicity was at its peak during the Civil War. But we'll leave it like as that. And Mr. CA, I'll go back to you, see what we do next. Do we go to our callers?
Yeah, our analyst will comment quickly, and he has 2 minutes. We have to be fair to him, and then we will go to the callers.
Yeah, I would take only 1 minute to speak on this part.
Okay.
I agree with Mr. Jah. The whole ethnicity situation in Liberia is the pink elephant in the room nobody wants to speak about. Both debaters here trying to reduce this thing to government and inclusion into government and stuff. Reconciliation does not, I mean, it's not just does not just boil down to the fact that somebody comes in as a president and they hire a certain group, but they didn't hire a certain group. People hire based on qualification, they hire based on trust, they hire based on fit, they hire based on, I mean, connection, a lot of stuff. So we can reduce reconciliation to that. Yes, both presidents try their best to incorporate people from every walks of life, depending on who they trust or what they think the person can do in that position. But I agree with Jah. Reconciliation is actually bigger than just that. We got a whole tribal argument that started a couple of years ago, or roughly 2-3 decades ago, and it's still lingering. But the bottom line, I think, it's a mind-boggling problem. I think it's a psychic problem. It's about the Liberian psychic. So we need somebody who will come into leadership and speak to the Liberian people on those things, and keep talking to the Liberian people that we are one, people. We should not see any divide and all that kind of stuff. If our leaders are mute on those things, then people keep holding to their trump cards to their chest, thinking that that the best thing they can throw at somebody else. Because people, oh man, you man, go sit down outside. Oh, you man, go man from Guinea. So we need leaders who will speak to our people to erase that mindset. But other than that, like Jah said, the civil conflict. perpetrators of the civil conflict. We have reconciliation where the TRC came, people voluntarily went to the TRC, they explained their condition to the TRC, and we got those documents, we read and we know who did what, even though we're not able to capture everything. But again, it speaks volume to the fact that people cannot be held accountable for some of the things they did, some of the wrong things they did. It becomes a difficult situation. That's the point I want to make on that.
With
Thank
that,
you.
we go to our callers. And each caller, please, you have 30 seconds. Just ask a question, no comment. Just ask a question, and our panelists, please jot down your question. Jot down, because we want to go through them within the next 6 minutes. So our first caller is 651. The last 4 digit is 8897. Your question, you have 30 seconds.
How you doing?
Good. Call your name and ask your question, please.
Hello?
Your name and your question, please.
Hello?
Yes, you are live. Your name and your question, please.
My name is Deb. I'm calling from Minnesota. I got a question for Wleh. My
Go ahead.
question is, we talk about freedom of speech and also freedom of assembly. But I saw last year when you was doing a campaign, President, we had told the Liberia people that once he's the president of the Republic of Liberia, you or family can never win the election, and also you were pity in the street. Is that what we call a freedom of speech or freedom of assembly?
Thank
Mr.
you.
Wleh, can you answer that question for me, please?
Mr. Wleh, please jot that down. Let's go to our international caller. I know he called and he's back again. International caller, your name and your question, please. Go ahead, sir. All right. If you're having trouble there, let's go to Mr. Kessley. Double quick, your question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Ja, and thanks to your panelists and students. I have a very simple comment. And my comment has to do with
we only allow questions.
I don't have a question. Can I just make a simple comment?
Okay, you have 30 seconds.
Okay then. Yes, my comment has to do with reconciliation and peaceful assembly by both governments. I can say that Madam Sadi herself admitted that the worst thing she ever did in her region, her entire region, was that she failed to reconcile Liberian people. And George Wleh, who is known to be a reconciler, instead of picking up from there, he's still making things worse. And when it comes to peaceful assembly and freedom of speech, Madam Sadi's brother, he did not do well. And in George Wleh's government, too, it's also worse. 12 years he had. If you compare 2 of them to George Wleh 2 years, I can tell you that under George Wleh's government is going to be a complete catastrophe if we continue from where he's starting from. That's just my comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. 410 area code 6591. Your question, 30 seconds.
Hey, my name is Unity Bellapo, Darlington Bellapo. I'm actually calling from Baltimore, Maryland. My question has to go to the citizen, right? The first question here is going straight to the citizen. I don't know who right there as a citizen, but it's actually going to citizen government. The president, George Mana Weah, he was an ambassador for peace. My concern is getting in power, what really he had done about that before you got talk about reconciliation and serving an ambassador for all the years, getting in power. What are we seeing coming to our country, or what the development actually he doing towards that area before we talk about any other thing?
Thank you. Thank you. Next caller, 5866, your name and your question quickly. 206-293-5866.
Yeah, I'm Favor. I'm calling from Washington State.
Your question, please.
Yeah, my question is going to Lobbo. I just want to ask this simple question.
Is there any way that a 12th grader can have a debate with a second grader?
Thank you.
Muted.
We're out of time, so I will just take one question and we go to our, let's ask Dixon Gonga. Dixon Gonga, your question, we have 30 seconds. Dixon Gonga, go ahead.
Gonga might not be paying attention. Let's go to another person.
All right, we go back to our international. We go back to Yeti Williams, 5978. Your question?
Hello?
Go ahead, your question, please. Your name and your question. 5978.
All right.
Hello?
Go ahead. You are live.
Seems to be having some issue there, Mr. Jad. Maybe you can take another one.
Well, the last caller now, your last 4 digits, 7845.
Is this a 717 number?
Yes, please go ahead. Your name and your question.
Yeah, my question here is in the
Go ahead. The last caller now, your last 4 digits, 7845.
He's listening to us and calling. Mr. Jad, we can't take this.
Go ahead, Go ahead, Mr. C. I think our panelists can respond quickly.
Yes, gentlemen, let's come to you. Let's start with you, Mr. Wleh. I think you have 2 or 3 questions. Quickly.
Yeah, okay. The guy from Minnesota, the first caller, he talked about the Talia-Ure issue. My brother, you gotta understand from whence the comment was made, right? The president was speaking in terms of the democratic process. Did he do anything in terms of cheating or whatsoever for Talia-Ure to not win? I can tell you, go and go to the U.S. State Department. They will tell you how free and fair the elections were. That brought Senator DeLong and Abu Kamara. So I don't want us to argue on the facts, but go to the U.S. State Department report on that election. It tells you clearly that it was free and fair. Yes, politics, I tell you, you cannot win that. Go ahead. Yeah, the president's statement was proven right. The people did not vote for Talia, unfortunately for her. And I go to Cassidy Double. Okay, he made a statement. That was the assumption he talked about. The way things are proceeding now, he feel that in 2 years, it might be worse. You know, but that's assumption. We all entitled to our assumption. So I will not go that route. And, you know, but at least I can tell you that legally, the laws now for freedom of speech is kind of far better than the Ellen time. And then I will go to Favor from Washington. Okay, that question was Lobbo. But actually, Favor, I agree with you. We're talking about 12 years versus 2 years. So 12th grader and second grader here arguing. And then it is very clear that you cannot be honest if you would try to make that comparison. But at least we want the people to know that, you know, the party should allow the Liberian people a chance to breathe a little bit.
Thank you.
Mr. Lobbo.
I thought the question was for me, since you took it upon yourself to answer it the best way you could. That's fine for you. I don't think that's the context in which he spoke, because if that was the case, I was just about to help the brother understand that when you go to debates, the school bring the best brains. The school don't care. A debate status is not where people come to show your class. So if that is your understanding about it, I don't know which context in which you were speaking, but when you say, can a 12th grader debate with a 3rd grader, that was the question. So technically, yes, the 3rd grader can debate with a 12th grader if the 3rd grader is informed, is equipped, is well prepared. Yes, that can happen. So I don't know what you intended to gain out of it, but I will say this to you. My dear brother Ray, my dear friend brother Ray answered the question and talk about the UP 12 years, so that are the CDC 2 year, we should give them a chance. I want to use my rest of my time to address something real quick for Ray. The notion here today that a government of 2 years must be allowed to continue to ruin the country, it does not make sense. No way. It took Prime Minister Adeyi in Ethiopia less than 6 months to secure some of the largest investments from the World Bank. It took Julius Maada in Sierra Leone less than 6 months to secure $25 million for free public education. He signed some of the greatest agreements. So you have been there 2 years. It took the UP government 2 years with a budget of $80 million plus to bring out some of the major developments. What you have not done yet tonight is to be able to show us the tangibles of the 2 years. All you have done tonight is to continue to talk about the UP government, make excuses, shout, shout, and shout. And I will say this to you before I get to my closing. You've been very continuously tonight. I watched you over multiple occasions. You used the word and said, you don't read or understand it. When we come to this platform, we tend to be respectful. And I hope when you leave from here today, that not for me, the person, whoever you debate in the future, that you will treat them with some sort of civility and respect. That is unacceptable. I've allowed you to go on and on because I'm the guy who believes. Jesus said, go and sin no more. So I believe in allowing you because I'm supposed to forgive you 77 times 7. This is why I thought you would make changes, but it seems like it's part of who you are. I will continue. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lobbo. And for the record, the last debate, you were the one who came to fight. And I think maybe Mr. Wleh is ready to fight. I like these exchanges, and we are men, and we should be civil. And thank you for answering that question. Mr. Jah.
Let's go to our closing arguments.
We are coming to the close of this debate. And after your closing argument, we are now calling on our judges to be ready to join us so that they can be able to give the grade sheet of these two outstanding debaters. Gentlemen, in closing, we are starting with Mr. Wleh. Mr. Wleh, you are to close in 2 minutes, and that is your closing argument on our original questions. What Liberia did the Unity Party leave for CDC, and how is Liberia now doing, or where is Liberia headed under the CDC? Your closing argument on the 2 questions, 2 minutes.
Well, okay, in 2 minutes, thank you, CA, for correcting Lobbo, because the last time we came here, he was very derogatory, and I tried to let him go.
Mr. Wleh, let's go to the
to go straight. Yeah, that's my 2 minutes, Mr. Jah. I got it right to say what I want to say in that 2 minutes, right? Okay, let me close it. Okay. All right. So quickly, and then I was never insulted to you. To be honest, I said that you didn't read a document with understanding. That was specific. That's a fact. Sometimes we read documents, we don't understand it. Simple as that. But I want our listeners to know that the CDC-led government has to do better. I'm not here to make excuses, I've said repeatedly. They got to do better. I'm not impressed with a lot of things, but that's not the debate we have here right now. The debate is what Unity Party left and what we are having right now going forward. I can tell you honestly, I was not given sufficient time to tell you these things because we were here analyzing the Unity Party and CDC. As I speak in education, today we got 78 technical teachers abroad. They are in what the Jomo Kenyatta Hospital, University, they're in Zambia, they're in all these countries going for training to come back. And there are a lot of things in education, in health, and all of these things I can talk about that will bring the facts about. Like I've been quoting all day, not my opinion, but opinion for UNICEF, World Bank, IMF, all these things. And I can bring all of those things to tell you what is happening in Liberia now. The greatest weakness that is making things ugly for the CDC is that the current economic reality in Liberia is difficult, it's challenging, it's a fact. Nobody can argue it. Early left a mess, and we better for our people. And the economic model we're using right now, if I were the finance minister, I would do it differently. But that's what they're doing, and I feel that going forward, they will do better than Unity Party-led government. Are you aware that in rice, by 2022, the projection is that Liberia will be at least more than 75% self-reliance in rice production, at least from nothing to 75%. Go and see today, private banks today officially at the Ministry of Agriculture, they were signing for private banks to start giving our rice farmer loan. That has never happened since the war started in Liberia. It's unprecedented. And there are a lot of things I could talk about. Next time, probably I'll have the opportunity to talk about them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Wleh, with his closing argument, at this time, we will bring in Mr. Josh P. Lobbo for his closing argument. Mr. Lobbo, on those two questions, your closing argument in 2 minutes.
Let me take this time to say thanks to all Liberians who took off from their busy schedule to be here. I want to say thank you for being here and following us. I also want to apologize for the technical difficulties when we begin the show. But regardless of that, the world is facing one of the largest epidemics. And I want to beg all Liberians, please, please take precaution. Your safety is a priority to me and all of us. Wash your hands, follow the healthcare guidelines. This thing is serious, and I hope that all of us will do the best to remediate. Let me say this today. I want to thank all of you, to my friend Wleh, and to that of our analysts and our big brother Alexander. I will say this to you. This is not about sitting and making excuses. When you inherit a country and take over an administration as a head, your job is to deliver. Your job is to make sure the organization achieves its goal. Your job is not to be writing excuses or finding excuses. It is unfortunate that a government that came to change things today have alluded to excuses. It is a government that is manufacturing excuses. The reality on the ground have not changed. Our brothers and sisters are dying across the countries in hospital. Right now, the country is facing one of the largest gas shortages. Again, something that is unprecedented. As I speak to you today, young people are waking up now, understanding what will happen today, tomorrow. As I speak to you now, over the next 2 years, Total will no longer be in Liberia. Total will be gone. Under the leadership of George Wleh, this is what have happened to businesses. All we see is businesses declining. People are not making any kind of strides. There can be no economic independence. I don't know where my friend was coming from with these arguments. If businesses that you have, you can't even maintain them. You can't manage them. I don't know how others will come in. So for us to sit here today, look, if I was making excuses for the CDC, I would have been one of the greatest authors because there's so many excuses. But one thing I would say to our fellow Liberians, this is the government of change that we elected. And it's unfortunate when young people come to this discourse or to this discussion to sit here blatantly and mislead and lie to our people and want to paint a picture of a situation that don't seem to exist. The reality is clear. Market women's are telling you, every single sector of the country, they are telling you. Pen boys know what the cost of gasoline is. I don't have to tell you today. Thank you, and thank you to all of you for being there.
Mr. George P. Lobbo there with his closing argument. To all our viewers in cyberspace, viewing us here at Focus on Liberia and Facebook, we want to say thank you. At this time, we will ask you to participate in grading our outstanding debaters here. Just made it clear who you think won the debate based on the questions, based on the issues. Please make that clear to us. We will take that into consideration. At this time, we will be hearing from our judges. We're trying to get them in, so bear with us, and we give you the few moments or seconds for you to grade our debaters. Those of you who are following us on Facebook, who won the debate, make it clear. Their name, you can see them on the screen there, is George Lobbo and MacCullay Wleh. Who you think won the debate? Let the comment be going. And also grade us here at Focus on Liberia. We want you to criticize us. We had so much difficulty from the beginning. We managed to put it off. Thank God for our technical team there that did an outstanding job. We could not have afforded giving you a debate where you don't see us eye to eye. All right. In the house, who just joined us is Gakon Moa, Left Main Focus on the Man. There he is. He is one of the judges for this debate. Mr. Moa, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Mr. Sear, and thank you, Mr. Ja, and thank you all the panelists.
All right. We also should have had Musu Stewart, but this show should have started at 6 p.m. Eastern, and she had engagement immediately after the 2 hours mark. And because of the technical difficulties, she couldn't continue. So we will not be hearing from her because at 8 o'clock, she could not continue on watching the show, talking about 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. She could not continue watching. So we will not accept her grading the fact that she didn't watch the entire debate. The other judge is Davina Cole. I'm yet to hear from her. Mr. Jai, have you heard anything?
Yes, it's same issue with Shihab, like Musu had, because of the technical difficulties, she ended up dropping off. So I think we have Mr. Moore who's going to combine 3 in 1.
All right, Mr. Moore, we want an objective, fair, balanced, and analytical report from you. And then we will try to match that up with the reports from our audience. And don't forget, Mr. Yala is here. He's the analyst. He will also be able to give his opinion on that, and then we'll decide the winner. So let's hear from our analyst first. And his role is to not call a winner, but to rate their performance, and then we will hear from Gakon. So Mr. Yala, you go.
And before Mr. Yala comes in, we want you all, the viewers, to prepare yourself. Remember now, on each of those areas, we wanted to see how direct they are to the question, how it is fact-based, and what they did with the rebuttal and counter arguments. And also, we want to see the opening and the closing. So as we prepare, listen to this.
Mr. Yala left, so we'll bring Gakon in quickly. Okay, he's back. I'm
here. I'm going to be very quick.
Yeah,
just couple of things here. Yeah, I'm not close with the authority to draw any line. Like I said, like you said, and you are right. I'll just listen to the debaters and draw a line some of the points they make, and fast check some of the points they make. I think it was a fun debate. Just to clear the air here, I want to come back again to reiterate about the feeding program that started in Liberia. Whether Mr. Wleh was alluding to just a specific time that has to do with CDC, well, I was really ready on here to tell him that he did not start on the CDC like government, because he was trying to give credit like that. So that was not the fact. The fact here, it started far, I think, like a year plus before even the CDC came in. And he makes a lot of good points too when he alluded to the fact he alluded to the fact that the CDC, the UP government was not that much better in respecting what we call free speech as compared to the CDC. I think both government has fought. Mr. Wleh, I did not give credit to Ellen for free speech. I gave credit to Ellen for embracing protest. Now, what I said. So you didn't hear me. You said I was giving her credit for free speech. Yes, we are decriminalized free speech, but it's just, I would say it was on paper. Was it actually, has it actually been implemented? That's the question there. Because we still see people feel very infuriated when other people make comments that should be considered free speech. Yeah, so Mr. Lobbo was, like I said, he was not dismissive of the fact that UP government received the biggest chunk of foreign direct investment. And also he was not dismissive of the fact that there was still some more bogus concessions. But the question here is why the true CDC is pointing at that. The question will be, what is CDC doing to fix those things? So let me leave it that way. Since you got your judge on, we'll listen to the judge, and based on what the people also are going to grade the two debaters, we'll pick it up from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yarat, for being very brief. Let's bring in Gakon. Mr. Moore.
Yeah, again, thank you. Thank you, fellow Liberians, for tuning in. I think the debate was great. And if you follow from the last debate, I think last week, there was a little shift in energy on the show as I was expecting. I want to commend our brother George Lobbo, even though he and I disagree on many issues, and commend Mr. MacCullay. And even though I dislike the current president that he support as the leader of our country. However, in discussing these issues as it relates to, let's look into the opening statement: education, healthcare, concession, freedom of speech, reconciliation, and basically they're closing the argument. To me, from our understanding of government, living in the U.S., almost some of us 3-4 decades or 2 decades or however long we live in the U.S., we can be able to determine that Liberia is not the ideal government that we would like to see for our grandchildren and our children in Liberia. Now, in listening to the debate, I think when we came to the issue of the opening, I think I was able to share my comment in the live Google Doc, so you all can be able to read. Okay. I think Mr. MacCullay tonight, he came prepared to present facts to the Liberian public. And I think, as young Liberians, when we discussing the issue of Liberia, it is highly imperative, especially if we're claiming that we are intellectuals, that everything that we giving our statement and comment on, it need to be based on facts. Whether the facts is not actually occurring, but there is a reliance that we basing our statement and our argument on. So I don't know how you want for me to proceed by giving numbers. As everybody who are listening, I think Mr. MacCullay, he came prepared tonight. I think he was able to research all the issue. He was able to reference his documents. When you go to the issue of let me see, I wrote some long comment, education. Yes, the issue that Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the first president, the female president in Africa, said the education system in her country was a mess. Then turn it over to a private entity to manage it. Then you had an education minister who was a former social worker who did not know whatsoever he was doing. I think Mr. MacCullay really came prepared tonight for this debate. So, and then if you look at the issue of healthcare, yes, we know that's a challenge in our country. It has been since I was born, and it is now. However, in terms of what they're doing, I think, again, Mr. MacCullay, he, for example, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf built a pathway. That was her job to do that. But in terms of the patient to doctor ratio, there's 200 doctors currently in Liberia. That's for every one patient is 10,000. For every one doctor is 10,000 patients. That is still bad. We need to change that. But the fact that Mr. MacCullay was saying that George Wleh is doing this, he building the military hospital. I think that's something that we all commended him on. The issue of the hospital in Liberia, even the Henry Kosa that we referenced in this interview that was arrested, the hospital was managed by a lady that became a nurse doctor, in Liberia, and she clearly didn't know how to manage the hospital. However, I believe it because it was Liberia, so she was given the chance to manage the hospital. But the hospital was a mess. All the hospital, the drugs that were held at JFK during the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf last standard, all of them burnt to ashes. So imagine George Wleh taking over from there. So there are still challenges as it relates to healthcare in our country. It's not as accessible to a lot of Liberians, but I believe hopefully it's our hope that progress can be made. And then the issue of concession agreement, the lack of Alex Tyler, what's this guy, the lawyer, Vonnie Sherman, all these kind of things that happened during the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf government. I think it was very MacCullay came prepared. He listed facts. He listed all his reliance were based on international credible institution that you can search and see. So I think I don't know. How would you all want me to proceed on the issue of rating numbers and things like that? I think I was able to share.
Just tell us on each of those focus areas who won and give us your total winner.
Yeah, to me, I think Mr. MacCullay won in every area. Everything that he said was not based on his opinion; it was based on facts. And as a factual, as an intellectual, as myself, that's something that I look at when I'm grading people. You have to base information on facts. You know, you cannot claim to be an intellectual and you cannot have a reliance of where you're getting your sources from. And knowing the issue in both government, I think George Weah government, yeah, the 2 years, they still need to do better. However, looking at what Ellen Johnson Sirleaf did in terms of having the backing of the UN securities in Liberia for 12 years, the flooding of international donors and all those money, compared to what's going on in Liberia right now, they're not that as much as comparable. So I think, honestly speaking, based on facts and not opinions, I think Mr. MacCullay won the debate tonight.
Sure. We want to say congratulations to our winner, and congratulations to both of you based on our judge who was here tonight. Say Mr. MacCullay Wleh won, and so we'll say Mr. Wleh, congratulations. Mr. C.
We first of all want to say a big thank you to GACON. We had so much difficulty from the beginning. We went off, we came back and off and then back on, but he stayed with us and he listened from start to end. Going to the numbers on the opening, he gave George Lobbo 1 and he gave MacCullay 2 points. Education, so on everything, he gave George Lobbo 1 point and MacCullay 2 points, thereby making MacCullay Wleh to be the winner of this debate. From his record that he sent to us, I'm looking at it, he did not grade them on reconciliation. I don't see any number there on reconciliation. Is that an oversight or just because you feel that they didn't do anything well?
No, honestly, I thought George Lobbo would have came strong over there because the current president was appointed to spearhead that department.
Right.
And I did not hear no type of argument on that. Like George Weah failed in that department. They gave him $2 million to try to help.
But then if you say you didn't hear it, then you're not being real because I did talk about that. Then that means you were not paying attention. It's unfortunate
I don't know what was your argument on it, but your initial argument.
Argument on it that
George, let him learn.
Yeah, I mean, from the listening audience, I think maybe in his closing, but George Weah was the head of reconciliation. Like he said, I did not rate nobody on it because I think the country currently is not at a stage where it's being recognized and reconciled.
I was not surprised. I should have known this.
George, stop disturbing the show. Let the man speak.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of that, I think the country still is we still need war and economic crime court. We still need the families need to be made whole again. People need to be prosecuted. And I think George Weah did poor as the ambassador of that. When Ellen Johnson Sirleaf gave him $2 million to run that office, he did not do much. And what is being done now, the issue of the Congo and Native divide, you know, that was something that was heavily supported by, you know, Mr. Lobbo with Emmanuel Nike and Joseph Yema Baka during the past election in 2017. So I think we still at a stage where we still need to overcome that and like Mr. MacCullay said, he does not agree with everything that George Weah doing. The area of improvement. Had George Lobbo said those type of things in his debate, like recognizing that they blundered, that they have massive corruption, that everything in terms of the last term of government, everything was failing, and George Weah came and took over, I think that would have been more honest and open to the Liberian people rather than defending a government that did not. We had issue at the end of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf government.
Thank you, Mr. Gacon. More right there, Mr. Jai. Hold on. George. Gacon did not give. George, no, George, you have your time to speak. No, George, you have your time to speak.
They will give let them give the response. Let them give the last word on the since the judgment has been rendered. I mean, this is a gentleman. Understand, or Mr. Gacon or any of us. We have 3 judges. We have only 1 now, so that's him. So please understand, this is for purely intellectual purpose, and I think both of you did extremely well, and that's how Mr. Gacon see it, and we trusted his ability. That's why we brought him here. So we want to hear either your victory speech or concession statement, or say something at the end. Mr. Lobbo, we start with you, 1 minute, and Mr. Wleh, 1 minute.
Let me say this real quick. I really wish I knew, but I'm being very, very clear. the fact that Gagon would say that he didn't even hear me mention that George Weah had a reconciliation, I will leave it up to the Liberian people. I have nothing to say. But Gagon is talking about a government that was corrupt. Gagon was a guy who was trying to get me to support Mill Jones, who was in the government he felt was corrupt. It's unfortunate, and I would just say this to Focus family. Liberians who watch this debate, they listen to the fight, they listen to the issues. They are not strangers, they know what happened. Gagon, I would just say this, the facts will play out. We had an analyst, judging from the analyst, on the issue of education, the analyst said he lied. The feeding program did not start under CDC. On healthcare, he lied. The analyst who was here made it clear. So it's unfortunate that Gagon would even say that, but I'll leave it where it's at. Thank you guys. Thanks to Focus. This was an opportunity to be here. I've done my part. Thank you. God bless you all. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Lobbo, you didn't give your concession speech. You are defending still.
As far as I'm concerned, like I said, what do you want me to say? Gagon made a ruling. The first thing the judge tell me, he didn't hear me say something. I think it was incumbent upon you to have corrected him. He said, no, I made that point over 3 different times. The fact that this guy, the fact that Gagon said he didn't hear it, now it just leaves me to say, okay, that's a bit my imagination. The fact that he didn't hear me say that Jovia was higher and was giving 500,000, not even 2 million. That tells me that I just have to leave it where it's at. I say thanks to Focus on Liberia. Thank you, Gagon. Thank you very much, Wleh, for the time. That's all I have to say to this. That's how I'll leave. Thank you.
Mr. George Lobbo there, and to set the record straight, if even Gagon have heard Mr. Lobbo on that one and has given him the 2 points, that will still not put him in the winning position. So Gagon is human being. We all have our own limitations on that. There can be oversight. Gagon, thank you for the work that you did for us. This is meant to have a conversation. It's not about trying to say this person is better than the other. Mr. Wleh, we won the debate. We will now bring him for a 1-minute victory speech. Mr. Wleh.
Yeah, in reality, it's not a victory speech, to be honest. I must commend my brother Lobbo. I appreciate these kinds of exchanges. You know, we are all one way or the other professionals in our private lives. Take up our basis schedule to come to this debate. So it's not about winning. I didn't win you, Lobbo. It was an exchange to provide information to the people. And I feel that the premise of the judge's decision was based on my references to facts, because he was very clear, and that's true. I did not quote myself here. I referenced substantial documents. And to be fair, Mr. CA, you asked us, both of us, yes or no, in terms of reconciliation. And Lobbo and I both agreed that he agreed that Unity Party failed in reconciliation. And I agree that CDC too failed technically because they're not doing what it should be doing. So, and the judge did not even give anybody gray on that. So right. If Lobbo agreed they failed, and I agree that we're not doing the right thing on reconciliation, then I don't know why he's getting angry. So I don't want you to think that he lost. We came here to provide information to our people. I respect the fact that he took his time, and I pray that we all can continue the exchanges. It is unfortunate when I look at or people like Focus on Liberia or other networks that are trying to bring people to provide facts, they will have less following. But if I see some of those people who are just out of being insultive or who are not interested in facts, they will have over 1,000 followers. It just tells you how unfortunate our Liberian political discourse is. So I congratulate the Focus on Liberia family. Today, I came, actually, that's the fact, I came in a little tougher stand because the last time George was kind of but I don't want to reference that, it's close in now. So it's a fine exchange, Lobbo. Nobody won this debate. We had a good exchange and we all want the best for Liberia, I believe. Thank you.
All right. No matter how George Lobbo feels, the fact that he will not congratulate the winner, even if he disagree with the ruling, I think that was unfortunate on his part. As a big brother to him, I will say it. He's part of this family. We don't go behind the door to say what we feel. He could have congratulated Mr. Wleh for winning. Despite his disagreement or concern or reservation with the ruling, he could have congratulated him. This is democracy we're trying to preach. This is democracy we're trying to practice. Mr. Lobbo has a lot of following. I listen to him almost every day religiously, and he preaches democracy. You know, in an election, in anything, when you are not the winner, you congratulate the winner. That's the example we should set, and that's what we try to do here. It's not necessarily about picking winner or loser. It is about displaying to our people the values, you know, how we should conduct ourselves as a community, as a people, so that others coming after us will follow that for us to have a community that we can be proud of. This is what we're trying to do here. On that note, I will pass it over to Mr. Jad. And first of all, I can't leave by saying thank you for following us here, Focus on Liberia, especially on the program, The Hour of Politics with me, Anthony C. We appreciate you for following us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as always. Mr. Jad.
Thank you so much, everyone, for following us. Thank you, Mr. Gacom Wleh. Thank you, Mr. Wleh. And also thank you, Mr. Lobbo. Here at Focus on Liberia, we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We don't have a side. Our side is Liberia, and we encourage all our viewers to be a part of this. Talk to us, send us your comments, tell us how we're doing, and what we all can do to move our country forward. Until then, my name is Dennis Jacko, hosting with Mr. Anthony C. saying good night and God bless you.
Liberia, oh, hey, in heaven. That they don't come.